call this meeting of the Nantucket Historic District Committee to order. It's Thursday, August 31st at 1:01 p.m. Present at this time are John McLaughlin, Stephen Welch, Diane Coombs, Val Oliver. TJ Watterson is here. He's not physically present in the room, but he is probably out in the hall. Abby Camp and myself, Ray Pohl. Can I have approval of today? Motion to approve. Thank you. All those in favor of Diane's motion to approve today's agenda?
Aye.
Aye. Is there any public comment at this time? I should also say that anyone who wishes to record this session with their own device should let us know. This meeting is being recorded. And any conversations outside of what's happening at the table should happen out in the hallway. Thank you. I did public comment. Okay, so now we're up for Tacoma Green. That would be you. Whoever wants to present. Well, let's see. Why don't you bring that? Usually we're presenting from over here.
Okay.
So that, right? And you guys can have a seat
You all
there.
see that? Strategically?
Yeah, I'm good.
Great, thank you. My name is Mark Hess. I work for Hall-Keene Management.
I wanna stop you just for a second. Can somebody find out where TJ is? Can you just look in the hall?
He came through here and said, "I'll see you upstairs."
No, he's
He's literally
He may just
right
be
there.
taking a
Yes,
phone
over
call
there.
I just didn't
outside.
want him to miss
That's
it
one of his quick
because he's
words.
gonna participate.
That'll teach him.
This is what happens.
Okay,
See, I
so
love
look,
mine, man.
you wanna know something? This is not something that we're voting on today, so TJ hopefully will show up soon, and so why don't you start into it?
Okay. Do you want me to wait till she comes back? Or he comes back?
John, no, it's okay. Go.
Okay. Great. So my name is Mark Hess. I am a partner at Hall-Keene Management, and we are a Massachusetts-based real estate management and development company. And we partnered with Williams Building Company, which is a Cape-based builder, to compete for the RFP to build workforce housing, 64 units at the fairgrounds lot. Some of you may be familiar with that process, and others not, but there was a competition with very specific criteria in which we had to meet in order to maximize the affordable units on this particular site. And, with the best design possible, balancing the needs for workforce housing, costs, and the design and character that's so important to Nantucket. So we had a winning design as part of that competition, but again, that was a sort of a one-way conversation where here are our criterion, and then we do our best shot at responding to that. And since then, there have been a lot of conversations with other departments and other folks and stakeholders in the community to help define that vision and address improvements to the overall plan, other considerations from other town departments, and also to try to maximize the potential of the surrounding land that's still owned by the town and how that might be developed in the future by the town for additional units. The town owns all of these lots except for this corner lot here. They own lot 82, and of course they own the expansion to this facility where the fire department is going to go. And we've overlaid the future plan for the fire station expansion on the lot. So this over here is fairgrounds on this side, and Trevor Flesh from MBA Architects and Liz Dunn, who've been spearheading the design portion, are going to walk you through the details of the design on where we are today. I just want to highlight that this is, we've jumped on this because we have an important timing limit in terms of competing for subsidies, where the subsidies are a really important part, in addition to the contribution of the land from the town, in order to make it possible to make the units affordable to residents of Nantucket. And we essentially need to be through our permitting process in November in order to be invited. You have to get invited by the state to compete to be invited to compete in January. So although this isn't fully cooked, and this is a conversation at this point, we're trying to get as much feedback from the various stakeholders to improve the plan to the greatest extent possible. So we're here early to get that kind of feedback so we can make adjustments, try to make it a community that you're all proud of. We're excited about where it is today, but we are open to any and all suggestions in order to make it fit with what Nantucket is trying to accomplish here.
I have a question already.
Sure.
Okay, so the timeline, you said that you need to have everything in place by,
November, they haven't announced the date for when they're going to do the pre-application, but they have a pre-application that's usually in November, some point in November, for what's usually a January round of financing competitions.
so it's by no means assured, even if you get through everything in November.
No, and the reality is very few projects get awarded subsidy in the very first application.
Okay.
So, and that's been our experience.
Now, so the permitting thing does not involve getting a building permit for all this?
No,
right?
correct.
Okay. So what you're doing at the moment is you're coming to us, coming to the planning board,
Correct.
that sort of thing.
That's
and all
exactly-
that needs to be taken care of
Right.
before November.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a comment.
Mm-hmm.
All the members here are very good, we all have common sense, all right? And we understand plans very well, so we're going to try to give you a half an hour, I think, to make your presentation, but we know what windows are, we know what doors are, we have a lot of common sense, so if you can, you've got a lot of people coming behind you.
Yep, okay.
Okay.
Well, that's it
Thank
for
you.
my piece, and I'm going
Okay.
to bring Treff and Liz up here and
Great.
kind of walk through the particulars of the design.
Thank you.
And we appreciate you letting us come in early for an early look at the project.
Okay.
Okay.
Did you get the names for the record? Sorry,
Yeah.
Terry. Yeah, okay, great.
I'm Treff LaFleche.
Excuse me, if you move that chair around the side, it won't block somebody, move this one over, so we can all see it. Thank you.
How's that? All right.
How's that for everyone? Good?
Yeah.
Okay, so, again, I'm Treff LaFleche. This is Liz Dunn. We're both from LDA Architecture and Interiors in Cambridge. We also have an office in Osterville, so we certainly are familiar with work on the Cape of the Islands. Everyone has in front of them a complete package of our submission that we would obviously bring to the formal presentation. We understand this is a preliminary meeting, so as Mark said, our goal here is to get feedback from you guys. And we know we've gotten a little bit of feedback, but without getting, taking you through everything, I think what we'd like to do is focus on the site a little bit quickly, take you through the materials of the site, and then I'll go through the materials on the exterior elevations so that you can, hear the specifics of what we're proposing, and then I'd rather than throw it back over to you and let you ask all the questions that you might have, and we could have a dialogue perhaps. Okay. So with that, I'm going to ask Liz to take everyone through the site features.
Great. Again, I'm Liz Dunn, and so Michelle Crowley, who is the landscape architect for this project, is unfortunately sick and not able to be here today, so I will be fielding that responsibility. So first and foremost, we decided to orient the proposal with 3 larger buildings so that all 64 of the units, which are a mix of studio, 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom units, would be together, and that we could center them around a community green, which is the sort of overarching thought regarding the site. Knowing that, we also are trying to incorporate as much parking as possible, working around the lot 82 that's sort of eating into the site here, and of course also trying to meet life and safety needs with the fire department, and then bike paths, all of that sort of stuff. So we're trying to work a lot of things in to do that. So what we've done is this is fairgrounds over here, this is Tacoma Way, these are the additional lots here, and then this is Wyatt Drive. And so we've oriented the buildings here sort of closer to the public land to sort of create a block between that. We have one building on fairgrounds and then the 2 sort of buildings opposite Tacoma, and then a large green in the center, and then the parking down below. And at the moment, we have 86 parking spaces here, and at the request of the planning board, we've tried to add in some more additional parking. Site features. On the second page of your presentation, there are also some future options that we have been thinking through on ways to improve this site. Part of them is taking over Lot 82. We really want to create a community here, and we feel like this is a growing and expanding space, especially with the 8 lots over here. And we feel like a community playground splash pad area in the future might be a nice feature and a way to use that lot. We had originally been planning on putting that on our lot, and then have been directed that maybe we can move that. We also have community gardens over here, again, trying to get people outside and activated in the green. And then the idea of creating space that accesses these lots that are off of Tacoma, so that depending on how that gets developed at some point in the future, it might feel like this actually becomes a full community as part of this initial development.
And reduce the number of curb
And,
cuts.
and
on
reduce
Tacoma.
reduce the number of curb cuts on Tacoma. So that's sort of the overall picture with that. And then if you want to flip now to page 3 in your presentation, I don't have all of these large. So material-wise, what we're looking at is a porous asphalt for all the parking. So basically all of the dark gray that's rendered here. We have brick patios and community spaces here. So this is a sort of an outdoor seating. We would have grilling areas. And then again, outdoor seating and grilling areas over here, so everyone could come out of their units and be part of the overall site and take use of the site together. And then we have exposed aggregate concrete sidewalks kind of crossing through, and then in an attempt to make things as green as possible for fire lanes, which are both up against the back here and then in the front of the building. Using green pavers for that, using grass pavers for that, so reinforced grass to do that.
Did you see an image of that here in the corner of that sheet?
On sheet 3. And then if you turn to sheet 4, there's an image of the community gardens over here, using sort of a naturally weathering cedar and creating individual plots for that. And then we have a trash enclosure down over here. Again, a natural wood, very simple construction, not drawing too much attention to itself. And then on the front of the property here and around the back, a split rail fence meant to sort of just keep everything really quiet and be harmonious with Nantucket vernacular. And then if we turn to page 5, we're showing to the left of the page a very simple black low-scale bollard, as well as a taller light fixture. And you can see in that plan where the lights are, they have little yellow highlights around them as you move around the site. The larger yellow circle represents a tall fixture. The smaller yellow circle represents the bollards. You can see we're trying to keep on the pathways things really low and clean, so you can see across the green. And the taller lighting is more surrounding the parking. And then there are also a few images on the right of planting.
Would you use that please up there, because you
Oh, of
can't
course.
all see what you're touching here.
Oh, sure,
Thank
of
you.
course. So to go back to the lighting, so the taller pieces are against the bottom here in the parking, and the bollards are here against the pathways. So basically this green area here, we're trying to keep the lighting low and then have taller around the parking.
So if you go back to your sheet, you can see the smaller diameter yellow circle referencing the bollards, and the larger diameter circle referencing the taller post lights. Okay.
And then on the right page of page 5, just some examples of planting, including some trees sort of in this area here in the green, as well as screening parking at the parking, and then wild native grasses planted sort of in between.
And again, these images are here to give you the direction of the feel that we would like to bring to this project. We we are still in preliminary design. We haven't really had an opportunity to start to get into the granular detail, but these three images hopefully will evoke the feeling that we want to achieve with the green space.
Okay.
So now to the architecture. So as Liz said, there are three buildings. Each building is really comprised of two major components. One is a rather distinct main block with an infill and two end pieces. So each of the three buildings are following this fundamental paradigm. And the main block, or the main house of a larger block, is separated from the middle and the ends with a brick veneer end wall that will serve some functional purpose in our design. It helps to break the scale down. It helps to relate to the brick that is used in this building adjacent to this lot. And it also gives us a chance to utilize chimneys that we can run many of our utilities to our ERV, our stack vent piping, and other miscellaneous utilities that will enable us to keep the roof lines clean. The materials on the exterior are already reflecting feedback that we've gotten from your group. So the main blocks here are all in white painted clapboard with white painted trim, and the white eave, soffits, breakboards, water table, turnaround doors and windows. The infill buildings and the two end buildings are naturally white, aging white cedar, gray painted trim, gray painted sash, window and door sashes, columns, soffits, entablatures, breakboards, and so on and so forth. You also notice that we have these railings that are on the top of the intermediate elements. We're doing that not only to help evoke the vernacular of the island, but also to hide some rooftop mechanical equipment that we need. We're planning to bring all of the mechanical equipment up off of the ground and locate them into these sort of interstitial flat roof areas here and set them back from the perimeter where the railing is, so that from a visual sightline point of view, you won't see them, even though you can see them here in the two-dimensional elevation. You can see the end pieces to each of the buildings and the brick veneer that we're proposing as a way to separate the ends from the middle, and the chimneys that would be part of that composition.
So the only thing that I'll add to that is we were initially looking at this, we were sort of studying some of the downtown and the idea of streetscape and the idea of individuality, which we hope that you can sort of see in this as this marches along.
That's right. The buildings, the program is large. It's 64 units. It's nearly 90,000 square feet. The goal was to create a building with massing and architectural character that acted as a transition between this building and its future expansion and the lower scale residential and light commercial architecture immediately adjacent to Fairgrounds, Tacoma, and Wyatt. We're really striving to find this sweet spot between the large scale of the program and a representation of massing that encourages one to look longer, not to just come to a conclusion as to what this building is at first glance, that hopefully the architectural detail and the modulation of the massing, both in terms of depth and height, encourages the casual observer to pause and look longer and appreciate the richness of the composition that evokes, I think, the history of Nantucket. So each of the buildings is rather similar, even though the Fairgrounds building is slightly different in length than the other two. The two buildings that are in the site are mirror images of one another, so you effectively flipped. And at these two buildings. There's one minor distinction in that the end that joins the two buildings together at the center has a gable end as compared to a hip roof with railing at the end of the two buildings, much like in the fairgrounds building, the two ends are hip roof. Here are some renderings that are in your package. If you want to go through, and you hopefully they'll give you a little bit more of a tangible sense of the composition and the idea that we've been discussing so far. You can also see the concept of how we envision the green space. The porches are a pretty important part of our design, we feel. It again helps transition the scale of the building down to the ground. We use the porches at the ends of the building for that purpose. We also use it at entry points to help create places of not only entry, but places for people in the community to gather and get out of the sun or relax, have a conversation.
You can also start to see in some of these views, the HVAC units are hidden and pushed back and are sort of hidden by the railings.
And we do hope that we can save some of the natural vegetation on the site so that when we do come in with our newly proposed vegetation, that there is a good mixture of new and mature material there so that it gives this community a sense of maturity and authenticity. Here's a nighttime view of that same angle, emphasizing the importance of low-level lighting, keeping the sky dark. Here's a view looking back down the two longer Tacoma buildings, the porches, the main block, another porch. We should point out that in the site plan, there are a series of brick entryways that provide individual entries to some of the units, as well as central entries that are in the center of the fairgrounds building, as well as the end of each of the two Tacoma buildings. There's a view of that common entry to those two buildings. And then here is a view looking back towards Tacoma. These are the future development of those lots to the south. Here is one sort of interstitial space between the end of the Tacoma building and the backside of the fairgrounds building. Here's an example of the brick entry pad, our exposed aggregate walkway, our brick patio for community gathering, entry door for one of the units, porch off to the side, places for people to sit, and the landscape materials that we hope will create a sense of balance between architecture and landscape. There's an aerial view. Here are the flat roof areas with the mechanical condensing units that are located up there. These are units that discharge their energy in one direction so that we can align them end to end, and we can stack them end to end against our brick facade here and nestle them in between the chimneys, another row on the opposite side and a third row in the center, so we think we can get all of the condenser units that need to serve a building of this scale in these 2, 4, 6 locations on these three buildings.
Air conditioning?
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's do one more, but I think that this board, certainly myself, we have enough information that you presented to us where I feel that we can certainly
Ready.
respond to what's on the table.
Okay.
Okay, I mean, we don't need to know about the condensers, but there are certain sort of overarching things that need to be said about this.
Okay.
So
So good. We're ready.
do you guys mind if I start?
No.
Okay. Can I, because I think there's some things that are like basically
Yeah.
like no.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we go back, let's go back to the elevation on Fairgrounds Road. Okay, first of all, I'd like to say that I appreciate the fact that what you're trying to do with these large buildings is to break them up into smaller masses. And I think that you've been successful in that in many ways. One thing that, the whole idea of referencing back to the building that we're in right now with the brick is not used as a residential material out here. You've got the 3 bricks on Main Street, and you've got a couple of random brick houses here and there, but 95% of the residential architecture on Nantucket is shingle with some clapboard occasionally, okay? So the brick, I think, is definitely out. Also, I saw those front elevations and I thought, they're fabulous because they sort of have this, movement and different heights and all that sort of thing, which, are helping you, again, break up this mass. Then sort of the illusion disappears when I look at the north and the south elevation, where we've got this sort of north end of Boston sheared off brick face that reveals the illusion that, it's actually not a gable house. It's actually a gable that's this wide with a big flat spot in between. So I don't know what the solution to that is. The Stop and Shop, the new Stop and Shop, had a similar consideration. In fact, their building was way, way wider than yours. And and we worked together on this, but they started out with sort of a hipped roof that wrapped all the way around with this big sort of swimming pool in the middle. And we finessed it so that you had gable ends sort of on 2 sides with hips or with gables running in an opposite direction, perpendicular to that. Now, the problem that you're faced with, if I could use this pen, is, ideally what would be happening along here is that we'd be looking at an eve end of something, and that would require this to become a gable, and it would sort of offset, this idea that you have these 2 eve-facing buildings. But I'm going to have to leave that to you. The other thing is, these railings, you see roof walks on Nantucket, but you do not ever see railings that are sort of continuous across like that. I think that what you should do, and now this was the hospital discussion, because the new hospital, which is being built at the moment, again, has a huge flat spot in the middle of the roof, but they looked at site perspectives and were able to sort of figure out what the right height of a parapet wall. You simply take that roof and you extend it up, skip the rail, and then you'll find that if you're standing X number of feet away at grade, looking up, you can have something that's 12 feet tall in the middle, and if the parapet wall is 3 feet high, it completely conceals it, okay? So I think that would be a better way of dealing with that rather than have this ornamentation of the railings, although, I appreciate it. It's just not something you see on Nantucket. Similarly, these pieces on the ends with these sort of hips, that's reminding me a little bit of Salem, Massachusetts, where you've got these 2-story hipped buildings, but you really don't see, I live in one, but they're very rare out here. 2-story hipped buildings, so I would encourage you did have a gable end. I think that, that might be the more appropriate form to follow, but those are the things that, and, this is very rarely done. I mean, you might find a few examples of that, but, those double hung windows can come down, the sills can come down, and maybe it's just a shed all the way across in terms of just simplifying everything.
Yeah, you nailed it.
Anybody else?
You nailed
You
it.
know,
I have one
go.
question. What is the overall height? What is the highest height on this structure?
We're 30 feet right there.
Oh,
Okay.
great.
And
Yeah.
we worked very, very hard
Yeah.
in order
keep
to
it,
keep
yeah.
that 30 feet.
Good job.
Again, that's the Stop and Shop, it's 30 feet high.
Yeah.
But the way that they got it was by doing sort of the faux gable, with all the mechanicals. I'm assuming, by the way, sorry, you have an opportunity to do mechanicals behind this too, correct? Or is that living space?
Well, we do have some attic space here, 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 but this is occupiable. That's
Oh,
occupiable. So to meet our total program, we're
Right.
using our third floor, not 100%, but we're using a fair amount of the third floor.
Can we find out how long?
Yeah,
The
they're on
fairgrounds-
here. Oh,
Yeah, if
one
you turn
seventy.
if you turn to this page here, which I think might be page 6 or 7 in the packet, that provides all the dimensions.
If there are 100,
This one's
So,
171 and 191 feet long?
there are
171 feet, this
Oh,
dimension string's in the wrong spot. Each of the Tacoma buildings are 171 feet long.
Right.
Okay.
And the fairgrounds building's 170 feet long.
Correct.
And
And their width is approximately 65 to 68 feet in width.
all right. And what is going to be between, are you proposing to put between these buildings and Tacoma Way if nothing is done with this section here?
So we are
They
proposing a
didn't
buffer.
describe that.
So we are proposing a buffer all along the parking between the lots on Tacoma and our property.
Can I ask
Right.
a question about that? Are those lots owned by the town?
They are.
And those are part of this whole thing? It's just that they're gonna be sold
It's
individually?
Not really. So really what we're trying to share with you is an ongoing conversation that we're having with the town, the chief planner, the planning board, that is the reason why we brought this site plan, is we really only have control over this site plan, the 2 lots that are part of the RFP. But in our discussions to perfect this whole scheme, particularly in terms of fire truck access and maximizing parking, that has led to a couple of possibilities that we are making you aware of. One is to take a thin strip of property that is actually on the municipal lot and make that a walkway, as well as fire truck access from Wyatt to Fairgrounds to get the fire trucks to the backside of our buildings. And then, in an effort to reduce the number of future curb cuts on Tacoma, the idea was to introduce a future roadway here that would connect to our fire truck access here, so that these properties could all have rear access, rear curb cuts off of this future 2-way lane.
But
It would also give us the opportunity, I'm sorry, just to point out, it also gives us an opportunity for some additional parking here that helps to increase our total number of parking spaces.
do you know the percentage of affordable housing that would be in the town when this is completed and when Richmond is completed? How close are we to
That's
the
a
10%?
perfect question to bring
It
Tucker
never
Hall
will be,
into.
because it just goes on and on.
Well,
Just
I don't think
increases.
so. There are towns, certainly, that have reached their percentage in low-cost housing. And I think that we have to be very aware of when we're coming
I was wondering about that.
to that. I have gathered some figures.
Tucker actually has some numbers that he can share with us.
So Tucker Holland, housing specialist for the town. If this project was completed with the 64 units and Richmond was completed as proposed with 225 rental units and 91 homeownership units, the town would be within approximately 40 units of reaching its 490 unit requirement to be at the 10%. That doesn't mean, just for clarification, that, in this project, roughly 80% of the units are restricted in affordability. In Richmond, only 25% of the units are restricted. So all these units, even though they count toward that 10%, don't necessarily equate to kind of the definition.
No, but they do
They do count.
They do count.
Correct.
So I think that we need to keep that in mind. 40 units is not very much. Who knows what's going on at Surfside Road there.
That would be inclusive of stations
Right.
and other things that are presently happening.
what you're saying is, if we do the build out of this,
Yes,
Richmond,
Yeah.
and what we already have, that we would only be 40 units shy of our 10%.
Maybe approximately 40 units shy.
And
I think-
hopefully they won't be in Mid-Island.
right.
It's gonna be total gridlock.
I think, I'm saying this to you because I'm an old-time resident of Nantucket, and the growth has been centered in one location, and when I see something like this, I grew up in Boston, and you say it's like Nantucket. It really isn't like Nantucket. It's like, it could be anywhere. I think you're stuck with that. I don't know how you change it to make it less, except to break the buildings down. And in order to get the number of residents that you need, I don't see how you're going to break it. But I think when people drive by there, the parking area that runs along the Tacoma side of the building, unless you put up a big bunch of tall trees, it's going to be evident. I think that's, what did you say, 96 parking?
It's 86.
86 parking spaces, that's a lot of space at 9 feet wide, 20 feet long. There's no place in Nantucket, even Stop and Shop broke up their stuff, so it was different. This is in a long line building, a long line parking, everything is from end to end. And I would just suggest that you look at it a little bit. It's neat to have it all in a line. I guess it makes it cheaper to build.
I have a suggestion.
Do you? What's that?
Flipping the green space to the middle of the parking, so it's sort of a loop situation.
Yeah, bring it
That breaks
closer.
up the parking visually, but you still get the green space, and maybe that would help with the overall. I'm a little skeptical about the parking lot working. I know it will, because you have the right proportions and everything, but if it was maybe a one-way loop around a green space park.
Well, I turned to this sheet just to remind us all that these lots, we think, ultimately will be developed. And then they'll, of course, act as a perfect buffer to that park.
I know, but that's
that's-
not a guarantee.
And that's a vote at town meeting to make buildings be built there. It's not all part of the town property, so,
And I think that's a good suggestion in order to break up the parking to some extent, although I think we'll still end up with too long parking areas in order to meet the planning board's requirement of parking. And I think because why we wanted to concentrate it within the property is it would enable us to put that green space against the houses, against the structures, so that when you're in your house, looking out of your house, you don't look across parked cars or a parking area. You actually look across grass, trees, and that serves as a nice buffer to the cars that ultimately you see in your view. So that,
right, but the people on Tacoma
Have to look at
are
parking.
looking at cars. I mean, they're
Well,
there
we're-
now. They bought and built those houses, and for them to look out at this, which is not, it was in anybody's mind, you have to think of that too.
I don't disagree, and but that's really the purpose of this buffer here, is that it will serve some benefit, and if we do bring the drive and the access to the backs of those buildings, then that sort of concentrates the vehicular access, the utilitarian aspects of all that these properties need to function well.
There's only one in and out though, and I know that's not our purview, but I'm very skeptical of that working properly.
So we have three. you know, we have this entrance here, we have this entrance, and we have this entrance. And then the future would hold a fourth entrance here. And this is meant to be then two-way. So that there actually will potentially be, if this whole scheme is realized, 4 entry and exit points to the site, which,
Can you clarify that? Because the first phase is really just fire truck access.
Yeah.
right, so we have this access here, of course,
We can only permit
and then we have this.
what we have a right to at this point. If the town wants to move ahead with creating the other improvements that we don't control as part of the RFP process, we can accommodate the design. That's why we wanted to show that we can adjust our design to accommodate other town plans. If they do that, we're all on board to do that, create the other entrances and exits to the site. It's just that we need something that works by itself. And there is no, I mean, the town's given us a lot with only that side to go in out of. We don't control any other lane, we're not allowed to go to
Yeah.
fairgrounds. That is the only option based on the RFP and what's.
Unless they
Well,
consent
that
to
was
something.
why I suggested maybe like the loop, because you could come in and go around and come back out.
We can take a look at that.
Certainly,
I think you'll
we'll
find
look at
that, I mean, the green space becomes an island.
Right.
It's like how many people
Yeah,
use.
that's
how
just
many-
right.
But how many people use the green space in Rotary, like in a town, things like that nature, where you have activities, it's not as conducive to public use if it.
Yeah, homeowners, and we are trying to create a sense of community here, and we think that the green space, which apparently resonated with the selection committee quite a bit, that it does provide that sense of ownership, that if I'm living here, as Mark said, it's hard to take ownership of an island surrounded by parking, a green island surrounded by parking.
Yeah.
Well,
That's true.
I just think that you should look at some options maybe. The future build out with the cut off of Tacoma and then this one way with the little island of trees to me is much more visually
Okay.
pleasing.
And one other thing I just mentioned on my list of stuff is, it's nitpicky, but I'll throw it out there so it comes up again, is the lights that you call low lights
The bollards.
are way too tall to be low lights. They have to be, if you want to see what they have to be, drive by the new elementary school. They have walking lights all through there. And the tall lights, I don't know, you don't have any size for them, but they can't be taller than 12 feet.
Oh,
The bollards are sort of in the 30-inch
Yeah,
height range.
look at the ones at the school. They're in the 5 or 6 inch. That's what you're lighting up, is the walkway. What are you lighting up 30 inches up in the air?
Right.
So,
And then Nantucket doesn't get enough snow. They need to get.
no,
No.
rarely.
Yeah.
and because you want to make that parking thing there as unseeable as possible. So the number of lights, they have to be properly put. It just lights up certain, the important sections, not like downtown Boston.
Thanks, Diane. John, I know you've been,
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. So far, it's been a pretty good presentation.
Thank you.
My comments would be on the architecture. You have, oh, by the way, it would have been a lot easier. I was trying to find that page we just had, and I couldn't find it here. But if you had numbered these for us, it'd been a lot easier. I would spend 5 minutes looking for that page. And it's not in there.
Good point.
We will note
Duly
that. Thank
noted.
you.
Yes.
All right, I'm just thinking it would help a lot in the future. I would like to see one plan to our office of the elevation, of the exterior elevation, so we can go in the office and look at them, as opposed to have here now.
You mean, you just want a copy sent to you?
Quarter inch is a lot easier to read.
Oh, I see, this scale. Okay.
I
That's not
question you
quarter.
got,
No, this is not a quarter.
This is not scale.
So,
Can you print that
Problem
large
would be is
format
if
so we can
it's-
see it a quarter inch?
Yeah,
Yes,
we
it
could
was
definitely
Yeah.
print it out a quarter.
Just one for the office. and then you
Yes,
can-
of course.
Leave it in the office.
We might have to,
You get to say.
might have to raise the building a quarter.
Right.
It's a long, it's a
It's
170
a-
foot long building, so we'll figure it out, whatever size sheet we
Okay,
can get.
I like to see harmony without monotony, okay? And the only difference I can find here is that on your, one of these, you have a dormer in the center of the building. Now, every window in this building, in all these buildings, except for the windows in the dormer, they're all 6/6s.
We
So
have,
why are these 6/1?
So we had this, this is an idea that we're proposing, is, we had the 6/6 at the most prominent formal element within our composition, so those are the two main blocks. And then we carry that 6/6 into the immediate wings left and right, but then we stepped it down for simplicity's sake and just for a little bit of added interest, diversity, to 6/1 at the very center block. So this is just our way of creating a little bit of subtle hierarchy in a long building. We're open to your feedback, of course, in that regard, but it's a simple idea to interject a slight amount of diversity and hierarchy.
I take it we're gonna continue using these for a while.
Those
These
plans?
sheets-
The plan,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
And
So absolutely,
no,
please critique
we can
that.
submit something, I'd like to see them numbered before we go ahead, because it's complicated, jumping back and forth, trying to find what you got up there.
Okay.
So if we can take them and number them, or give us numbered ones, it'd be a lot easier for us.
Will do.
All right, you want?
Thank you, John.
You want somebody else's time?
Well, hang on.
Can we continue this for next Thursday?
Well, let's, Abby has not yet spoken,
Okay.
nor has Stephen, so I just want to hear if you have any additional comments.
I think it's a great design, but I feel it's too formal for this area. I mean, just looking out the window from here, this is a rural neighborhood, and I think the architecture, your design is great, but for this neighborhood, I think it's too formal. And I think Ray already pointed that out. And I'm not sure about this, but combining the 5 architectures, you've got, as you said, you split the 2 hips on the end, you have the central, and then you have the 2 blocks in the middle. Something about that is striking me as slightly Disneylandish. I can't come up with another verb for that, or adverb, but so what I'm worried about is making this look a little forced. I'm wondering if it shouldn't be more monochromatic, or the material's the same. I realize that's why it might be good to see this as in quarter-inch scale, so, because we work in quarter-inch scale all the time, so we're used to seeing that. So I'm not really sure how long that is. But that's a question mark I have, and I don't know what my other board members think about the way you've broken up those 5 features. Just a general comment about, is there enough space between fairgrounds, bike path, and the building? I'm a little bit worried about how this looks, the west side on, yeah. So I'd like to keep that rural as well, like I just want it to relate back to the neighborhood. And about I'm not as concerned about what goes on in the, I wasn't concerned about it until Val pointed out that that's a lot of tar. And if by breaking it, I think that's something you're going to look into that, about how you're going to break that up, I think. And I understand putting maybe a strip of green down the middle somehow, or trees that are going to break that up, but I understand that if you do, nobody does go into a rotary, so I think you're aware of that.
Well, it's wider than a rotary.
Yeah.
Isn't it like 20 feet?
Well, but I think,
Yeah, but
I
there's
think the point is that
requirements.
no one goes into the median of a highway to recreate either, you know? It's sort of like, no matter how wide it is, if it's set into a sea of parking, it's probably not the most desirable thing.
But they,
However,
but they
this splitting the baby is creating a small green median
Right.
in the middle of all that, which would borrow a little bit of space from the park, and it would be a place where you could provide shade trees and that sort of
Or-
thing
or
that
maybe
would
has-
really take the curse off of this sort of wide open expanse of asphalt.
It could be simple, yeah, some shade trees with a couple of lights in between or something,
Yeah.
just to break up the,
Like a neck down in the middle?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
And lose a couple spaces, that might be,
right.
have a huge impact.
Diane's overarching point, I think, on the parking thing was it's just this huge block
right.
of unmitigated
yeah, absolutely,
asphalt.
yeah. And just, again, on the materials, like the tar, the bollards, I think black is heavy, it's going back to that too formal for this area, I think just poured concrete, like a light gray color is fine. And I think, the use of brick is, I think I mentioned is just too formal for this area. But I do.
No, I for one agree with you. So, now you know.
Those are my thoughts.
Okay, Stephen?
Yeah, on the parking, I would agree either way. I think breaking up that parking area, we know you need a certain amount of parking spaces. If it were to be done with a median of some type for shade trees, I think that would help visually with parking area. In terms of having a separate access way, there may be some merit in that. This isn't a rotary, the only person I know who's ever played in a rotary is Dougie Bennett over in but this isn't a high-speed, freeway. This is, a parking area. So there may be some success there that you could achieve. I'd like to say that I think, it's a laudable goal. As I said at the planning board, I think it's overall thoughtful design to begin dialogue. I think you're going to find when it comes down to the brass tacks, scale and density are the primary concerns, not just here but in the community widely. I think here some secondary concerns will be that the HVAC equipment actually is placed, wherever it is placed, that it's a final design and what I mean by that is you've been able to work through what your capacities are so you know your requirements, because it would be very unfortunate to have you come back and find that you need more and you need it on the ground and it's dispersed and there really isn't place for it. And I would echo that the trash, your trash facilities, I think you're going to find are insufficient for that number of units, that number of people. And again, planning in advance for that and laying it out in a way that it can be incorporated into the design and approved is going to be beneficial for everyone. I think more broadly, the visual motion that you're looking for with the individuality of the facades, I think in 2D it works. I mean, not getting into whether the hip roof is better or not, or a gable dormer or any of the dormers, but just in terms of would you mind putting up your elevation? Actually, that's a great example. The perspective. One more. Okay, so I think that the differences that you've introduced are successful in terms of individuality, but more successful on a 2D drawing. Without the depth, I think, that's required, for instance, if you look at your center mass, it doesn't seem to me to be sufficiently deep enough, or your porch isn't extended out far enough to create the sense of individuality. It almost appears, just between the three of them, between your large formal mass, your informal central mass, and your large informal mass to the right side. The three of those taken together to me appear to be in 2D more successful than 3D. And I believe that's because the depth, there's not a sufficient depth. It makes it appear, and don't take this the wrong way, but it makes it appear the individuality to be somewhat contrived.
Yeah, like a facade.
Yeah, whereas on your flanking to the left or the far left and the far right of the overall structure, where the individuality is more successful, and again, hip roofs and other things aside, you have a greater depth, and that is very successful, I think, as a design element in actually not only breaking up let me take a quick break here. On your 1/16 inch scale, this is a 195-foot building with your covered porches, right?
Right.
So it's 195 feet long. And where you're having success in making that kind of disappear is with the individuality on your far flanking structures and the fact that they're set back different, or there's a change in the depths of facades, in my opinion. And I just want to say in closing with this is that I think, as I said when I started, this is a laudable goal. I'm a big believer in infill housing. I think that, the town is working diligently towards the goals that are required of it. But I am a little concerned of the density here. And I think, as I said, that when you come back to the board, when it comes down to the brass tacks, it's going to be scale and density. And I know you're working with an RFP, and that's kind of outside of our scope of review, but that might be something that needs to be considered. Oh, and is there an elevator? Sorry, I forgot.
That's right.
Each building has an elevator, and the fairgrounds building has 2.
Right. What in any of the stuff that you were given says you have to have this many apartments in these buildings, or is it a financial need which we're not concerned with?
So what you see is our response to the RFP. The RFP sort of stipulated minimum performance, and one of them was 64 units. Another was a certain distribution of unit types and sizes. A third was that we had to have a certain number of units on each of the 2 lots. So there were a fair number of constraining requirements in which the design fits into the funnel that ultimately distills out this solution.
Who makes up that RFP? Who?
The town did.
The town said that you had to differentiate between the buildings or some.
No.
No.
Oh.
Tucker is.
Yeah, so this might be helpful. So, the annual town meeting approved the zoning for this area as well as others, which allows the density that is being utilized for this project. The Board of Selectmen unanimously issued in an RFP that they would like to see 64 units of workforce affordable housing proposed and built for the site. So it's a unanimous decision for selectmen based on zoning approved by town meeting that the RFP includes those elements.
So did they say that it has to be broken up into certain? No. Okay. All right.
If I may.
At least the only requirement.
Oh, that would be okay.
A
At
minimum
least
3
3
buildings.
Okay.
Right.
But
And
no,
how many
but
units?
they didn't stipulate within that context of like, say, one building that it had to be broken.
No, this was just, we didn't want it to look like a motel.
Okay.
I actually really appreciate your trying to differentiate. I think
Yeah.
that's hugely successful,
Yeah.
and maybe just not a vast difference of white versus natural to weather. If you could
And
pick a
shingle it
different
all.
color. I
Yeah.
like the difference of materials, and actually, unlike John, I think even maybe each unit should have a different window pattern. That would even help make it look more individual.
So we were given some initial feedback that encouraged us, based on the first pass, that we would sort of concentrate white here and gray at the other.
It's just too
Elements.
stark, I think, and the white makes it look more formal. If that was shingled with white trim,
Would be more
be
in
better.
keeping.
Or
Yeah.
perhaps natural clapboard is more rural. Can I, just a quick other comment? I think you're going to find that all these are meant to be constructive and informative for you to be
Understood,
moving
yeah.
forward. I do think that density and scale are obviously the Board of Selectmen and the town, annual town meeting approved a concept of a certain density and it meets zoning. How you all decide to come up with a design that meets that requirement and can be passed by the HDC is, of course, up to you. I would ask that you explore, I know that you've only got one basement being utilized, and I would ask that you explore, and maybe that works into your rental, how you work out your rental phases and income, monthly rents and whatnot, but that you look at basement space. You've got a tremendous amount of square footage under two buildings that's not being utilized, that could perhaps, in a design, be utilized creatively, and it may also help to serve with your utilities, your trash storage, additional bike storage, and so on and so forth, and it would decrease the amount of square footage you need on the site above grade, if not significantly, at least somewhat, and
So
it could
just to be
help with
clear,
parking.
You're encouraging residences, not just supporters.
I know plenty
Or
of people.
you're asking us to consider
I'm
that.
asking you to consider it, and that's based on the fact that there are, it's widely spread on the island that basements are finished and rented, and you can do wonderful things with that space. And, how you all recoup that, and maybe you differentiate, your costs. I understand it's gonna have an impact on your construction costs. In some areas, they're gonna go up, and in some areas, they're gonna go down. I understand that it's gonna have an impact on your income models. In some ways, it could go up, in some ways, it could go down. That is all up to you. I'm just suggesting that you look at that because it may help you considerably in addressing some of these issues to utilize at least the equivalent of one basement space for trash, bikes, different areas partitioned off for, beautiful, retaining wall, lockout, English basement style apartments, so on and so forth. So be creative is what I'm suggesting, and please don't, if you can't use the space, you can't, but please don't just dismiss it.
As you all probably know, one of perhaps the greatest challenge about workforce and affordable housing is the funding mechanisms that really have to determine a cost per unit. That we have to be careful here that in our effort to make this feasible, we have to find that perfect balance. We can't achieve our funding if it's too expensive.
Okay, so Stephen's comment was basically don't rule it out, and then I think that what he attached to that is if it's economically unfeasible, discard the idea, but I mean, I think it's worthy of consideration.
It's worth it, and keep in mind that foundation building, building out your basement is the cheapest form of construction on Nantucket.
Yep, you put some windows in.
You're gonna be putting in, you're gonna be putting in some form of a foundation, you're gonna be doing excavation work, you're digging deeper, you've got the concrete work, you guys know the numbers, but, I'm not suggesting that we create a subterranean living spaces for everyone on Nantucket who has affordable housing. In fact, far from it. I think you can create really wonderful, beautiful spaces and at the same time address other concerns. I'm not saying it needs to be all of that basement space needs to be apartments. I'm just suggesting you look at it.
One of the things you have to keep in mind, that we keep in mind, is we're not going to approve something that doesn't fit because it's cheaper. The cheapness or the expense of a building under our auspices is not regarded.
Understood.
We can't do that, so, we have to see what,
Yeah, I think I'm in
You
agreement. We're all in agreement probably that we're looking for balance.
yeah.
Could I just ask one follow-up question about the brick?
Okay,
Just because it's,
make it quick.
so is your comment about the brick ends and chimneys,
Yes.
or is it just ends?
There's brick chimneys all over the place.
Yeah, chimneys are fine.
They're comfortable with
The
the
end
concept of
walls
it.
to me are like, the condo things you see out in, suburban Massachusetts where you have to have a firewall. You literally never see that detail, ever.
It looks like the Legion Hall wall.
Except for the ends of the Freedom Square and the south.
Oh, do they have brick on them?
Where?
All right, well, we don't want to replicate.
But it's only on the very ends.
Correct.
The purpose of it is to make these look more like townhomes rather than a motel. Brick helps
Well,
bring that out.
no.
But there aren't
No.
townhomes that are brick.
Can I know you guys are going to run out of things. Can I just, wrap up for us? Are you guys done with your comments?
Yeah.
Sure.
We could go on forever, but we really have to move it along.
Yeah.
This has been really helpful. Thank you.
Thank you.
We we've asked that you consider the fact that there's nothing like this on Nantucket in terms of this kind of density today. And the idea of sort of riffing from different palettes of the island to do something that's totally different. It's not, no matter what it is, it's not going to be a farmhouse.
Got it. Basically, what this board has said, you know, you're not in front of this board all the time. Sometimes we say redesign. In this case, we're not saying redesign. We're saying you're off to a really good start. There are certain things about this design, both from the site work perspective and from the architecture perspective, that need refinement to bring it closer to what Nantucket has specifically to offer. Okay, we understand that they're big buildings. We understand that this is sort of a unique thing. We get all that, and you're off to a good start. And I think that you know, with some refinements, I think it'll be a good project.
Great.
Okay?
Great.
Thank you.
All right, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Okay? Everybody good?
Yeah, no
Did you
break,
want-
that's
did you-
all.
No
break.
No break, no break. Okay.
I don't want it to look like this
Double
building.
your time,
This is the
too.
worst building in the middle of town that there is.
Huh?
We deserve it.
We refer to it as.
Okay, Richmond.
Right there.
Mr. Chairman, you want to cut off point on
Right
this or
back.
what?
So what?
I figure
Very
half
good.
hour is a
Oh,
tough
really?
time to
I
answer.
couldn't, I can't
It's
really
right
tell.
there.
Best we can.
Well, you know, I would love to say that, John, but I mean,
It's a rural
everyone wants to speak on it.
There's something of this size. These small.
Well, this is helpful.
How do I give them a hard time and easy?
John, you got what you wanted.
Yes? Remember you've been asking
Confetti.
for where they all are? Now you know.
All the rest of it isn't, just a few of them. The whole thing.
It's beautiful.
And did we get an individual site plan too?
Where's the key to that?
We do, we have.
I'm just joking.
I was ready to done, I haven't had them out.
Okay, okay. Welcome. How you doing?
Thank you.
What happened to TJ?
Did he get a call?
He said that it, he said
What?
something, he said something came up on his website.
His
Okay.
house.
Such is life.
Fair enough. Hi.
Oh, no.
So are we reviewing new modules today in the same way we've reviewed others?
Okay, so for today, we addressed, some of the comments from last week.
Oh, okay, on modules that we've
Module
already
design.
seen.
Right, and
Okay.
one additional we have touched.
Okay, all right. So,
I see you got new batteries.
Isn't it that purple building?
He's annoying.
oh,
Conceptual.
okay, everybody,
I see you got new batteries.
rein it in.
Yes.
So, right now, we are looking at conceptual model H. Is that one that we have already seen?
This,
We saw it last week
previous submission, I've labeled
when
them.
you weren't here.
Oh,
Oh, I watched the video.
Where's the previous?
Well, it's
it's
not
not
actually, I don't
actually,
think we need
it's
to.
not an
Oh,
official
okay.
submission.
Yeah. But I did watch it just so I could keep up with things.
This is the
I missed
enlarged
you.
site plan for module H.
Did I miss you?
Oh, I apologize, I'm giving you module C.
Okay. So why don't we review conceptually what has changed since last Thursday?
Okay, very good.
You want to hand out? Have we got that, site plan?
What?
The colored,
No.
could we have a colored site plan?
Yes. Here's the module H site plan. Look, there's 3 different smaller handouts we'll be giving today with the site plan. Actually, I did module C. Okay.
this is the same, right?
Actually, no. For some reason I got printed that way. Okay.
Oh, but the H is just this.
It's very
right?
similar, exactly. But I actually have one specifically for H lot here.
Can I have a show of hands? Who was present at the previous, okay. Was John here?
Last Thursday?
Okay, yeah, it says Steve and I were not here, but the other three of you will know what the changes for this have been.
Yeah, I couldn't pick it up on the video because it's
I
all.
think it went from a hip to a gable. Is that right?
Well, right, we had several comments about the massing. And what happened was originally there were 3 hips. There was a hip in the back and a hip on each side of the H building. And then we made the facade of 2 gable hips with an extended porch in the middle. We'll be starting with H.
I'm sorry, can I just, to get oriented, this site plan, is this part of what you're passing out, or this is a conglomeration of what you passed out?
This is the overall.
Okay.
And
And this
then
has a
there's
module H and a module C on it. Do these
Right.
correspond with what you passed out?
And a module G as well, if we get to that. Yeah.
Okay, just so I know what is what. So I'm gonna
Can I
send
ask you a question?
Thank you.
What is the difference between the HE and the GE?
Very little, very little. More floor plan changes and.
Okay, that's what I wondered, because otherwise their shapes are the same.
They're very, very
Yeah.
similar.
Okay, thank you, sorry for the interruption.
So, if we start with the H building, on the site plan overall, it's color coded as red, and we have one standalone H, and then we have 1, 2, 3, 4 that are adjacent to these. So, what we did last time was I think it was actually 2 times ago, we decided to call the HE module C so that it's presented as one building. So even though has C on it, it's actually H plus E. Okay?
Yeah.
So that's really what you see most of it, and there's one standalone H.
I'm really confused, Jefferson. Some
Yeah.
people.
So
Yeah.
H and E are Cs.
Well, but,
Together they're C.
Correct.
So separately they're H and E, and together they're C.
Dinah, I'm just gonna say that we are theoretically, looking at model H, okay? That's what it says.
Right.
And on this little inset site plan here, it's an H, okay? And what I see on that little site plan is essentially a T-shaped building, okay? Agreed so far? All right, now, I look at the south elevation, and I'm imagining, well, I see this bar with 2 gables coming forward. And then I look at the east elevation, which, like, all of a sudden, it's not looking at all like a T-shaped building. It has, gables popping this way and this way, and I don't see that this is actually the H building.
Yeah,
Right.
look at your
This is
floor
not the
plan
H
next
building.
to it.
The H building is essentially a T. It does not, the site plan does not reflect all the modifications.
Oh,
The interplay of the.
all right, got it.
So the,
Of the past meeting.
so the H on the site plan is not updated to reflect.
It
the
doesn't
show
buildings
all
as
the
of
bumps.
yet.
Right.
The 2-foot bump outs here. and
Okay,
there, it
just,
doesn't have.
okay, I think that answers our chairman's question.
May I pass one more H model?
H.
One more H. One more.
Yeah. Reverse.
Okay, I'm confused again.
This is a mirror image of this.
Confused again.
Okay?
I think if you do this and you have your floor plan, front of you, it makes more sense.
This is the main floor plan.
But just if I'm looking at this,
Oh, yes.
this is a mirror image of this.
This is the tape.
Correct. This is the identical image of this. Whatever is predominant, like west, you see most of the west elevation on this one?
Yeah.
That's the west there.
Right, but if you look at this map.
Oh, it's mirror image on each side. Correct.
Yeah, okay, so we're looking at a visual perspective in the pass out that is a mirror image of what's on the bottom of sheets
Yeah, but there's two sheets.
A3.
Right. You'll have a north, south, east, and west on the 3D as well. Just
yeah.
Okay, and it's the actual image, it matches the actual elevation number 1 on sheet A4.
correct.
Right.
Okay,
Like the floor elevation.
yeah, just
before-
just orienting here.
Right, that's part of the reason we did the 3D was to give you an idea of which way
Keep us
it's
confused.
This is it.
trying to do the
It's keeping us on our toes here. So did you get that?
Look at it last week.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, I do.
Okay, cool, thank you.
You're welcome. There should be 2 pages to the 3D views.
Yeah, it's,
I got it.
it hasn't been updated. This, only thing on this, the only thing relevant to this is the general footprint and the letter page. This hasn't been updated.
Thank you.
Because if we make changes, they're gonna do it all at once.
Getting rid of it.
Does that help?
Yes.
Where's that picture?
It's very close, she just doesn't have the articulation yet.
Is it under here? None of the image, the perspective view?
This mirror image.
Our copy of that? Did you give it back?
That, you want it.
Oh, okay.
Here's,
Forget about it.
I
we have
have
one?
plenty, I have
Okay.
plenty.
No, one's good.
But then you're gonna miss one of the sides, because that's the south, yeah. The south and the north are not, the north is the small, this is the smallest portion.
Gotcha.
Don, didn't we discuss Val or last time on the south elevation instead of having coming up on the hips?
They're not hips, they're gable on each side.
Right, this is the roof.
Oh, no, we're just talking about the little peak up
Oh, the
chart.
peak.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
If
I
that-
wasn't
You
sure
know,
how
that-
to deal with that, yeah.
Well, right now,
It did.
that's gonna be a gable roof that has a little sort of.
Right.
Right.
I'm
You
just,
wanna know something weird? If you really look, you see that all the time downtown. It's so subtle. You look at a ridge and it's coming along and it goes pink. That's because the gable behind it is taller.
yeah.
So it does occur.
No, I know. I'm just drawing it from my own.
That's what we were
to
just
see if
talking
I-
about.
Right. And one other thing on that south elevation, just so you're aware, we did make the middle portion a 7/12 pitch to lower it, the ridge, so
Yep.
that it wasn't too high above the 2 end gables.
I think that's fine.
That's good.
Other than that, everything is 8/12 and 4/12 on the porches. And I think the main comment was that to look at other ways, other options to deal with the sides and of the massing on that front. And I'm sorry I don't have a copy from last week.
The front being south.
Yeah, the south with it was basically a hip design.
I like what you've done.
Yeah.
With the exception of that one little area, which I think I'm happy with either way. I was just trying to draw it to see what it would look like.
Do you mean that little?
The cheek.
Or the square.
I think it looks good.
Yeah, thanks to some valuable comments we had last time, I think it came to a better level as well, thank you. One thing with that little cheek or whatever we want to, however we want to identify that does happen on a couple of different buildings that we have. And I drew it the other way, and it looks okay straight too, but it seemed a little more prominent when you.
Well, it really calls attention to itself when you turn it into a gable, and it would actually make this whole ridge a little bit longer, because you'd see this.
Right.
And having paid a little bit of attention to it in recent history downtown, I would say that just if the roof is going up and the shingles continue up into a little triangle, it's kind of very innocent looking.
Yeah, you can see it on the front elevation very, very mildly. on the back.
Exactly. Right.
Okay. So, other than that, we added the front we actually modified the front porch slightly to extend from inside face of extended gable to inside face of extended gable. And then we pulled it forward so that, again, you have some articulation that centers it and lowers the entry. Other than that, there hasn't been a lot of changes to this building besides the two gable fronts. And they're repeated on the back of the building, on the north and south.
It looks good.
Hmm.
I think you've done everything we asked you last time.
Comments, John?
Yeah, I'm seeing three hip roofs here. One here, one here. One here.
Just in the back, there is a hip roof.
Right, just the back wing going back.
Right, the back.
Too many hips.
I think it's just two
It's
hip
just
roofs.
one.
Or one hip roof?
To my knowledge, it's just one.
Well, there's
Right.
hips where the the longest plane of the primary mass, the roof,
Yeah.
matches and joins with these. These are,
Yeah.
this
Those
is
are
a
hip,
hip.
yeah, because of the.
Right.
There's only one protrusion where they have, but the main mass roof structure has two hips, one on each end.
Right.
And I think that's what he's seeing.
Uh-huh.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Are you good with you're happy with that porch? It's deep enough for you, that front porch?
The depth is fine. I think, we don't want to get it too dark back in there, but I think,
Like
we
6 feet.
worked on it a
Yeah,
lot.
no, I'm not-
I believe 6'2".
I think it
Yeah.
looks good. It's
I-
good.
Me too.
I'm not a shrink violet. If I thought it should be deeper, I'd say so. I just was curious if you thought it was enough for what you're doing.
You're a shrinking violet?
I'm not. So
You're not.
I would have
Yeah,
said, I
okay.
think it should be deeper. I don't think it should be deeper, I was just curious. And then, the only other kind of thing I would mention, which is just a super detail, is you're gonna have a return on either side of your front porch, that'll die into your corner boards. Which
Yeah.
should probably be reflected in your final drawing so that it's not
That's,
picked out later at inspection.
Absolutely. It does project beyond, and then it's going to return right into the corner board. Exactly. Once we
Looks
This is just conceptual, this is.
It is.
Yeah, so let's move it along.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's
so
good.
you have our comments. And now,
the next one is
Looks like a
Model
cottage
G.
compared to what we just
I
looked
know.
at.
Closet?
like a shed. What?
This is the. Did you want these back? No.
Oh, comments from me?
No, I just-
No, you made your oh, do you have more comments?
No, I just asked her, I said, I see three hips.
And what it is you're looking at, there's the big roof that holds it all together is a hip roof, and you're seeing the two ends of it. And then everything else is a gable.
Keeping this for now.
And then this is on the other side.
Yeah, because it's still
Yeah, there's one here, and then on the other side the same, and then this addition has a hip on it.
right.
So you're seeing this where the main roof comes down to match the gable ends. So those are the three you
So
mentioned.
we did this one.
Was there additional comment?
Yeah. We haven't done
Got it?
I'm not a dentist.
It's hidden
What
in
does
there.
that
It's like pulling teeth together.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh.
Why did they pull the other one up?
Oh, wait a second.
Because we're moving on.
this H, this one.
Sorry,
H,
what you
H,
just handed out, is that the next one?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
there's-
Oh, I'm sorry.
So do we keep this on drawings?
Yes,
Because it's
everything,
just 2 pages down.
Can you pull
everything you
retrieve?
should have a copy of, large scale of what we're showing you today.
Can you? Is that too far away?
Are you
John,
asking
can we,
where these
can we
are?
get one?
You know, honestly, I mean, I don't know how you all feel about it, but I feel like we're still at the conceptual stage of just getting these buildings conceptually designed, and then the actual application, where they're going and all that is like the next stage.
We were asked for this meeting to bring in
Oh,
like
you
a large
were,
case.
yeah.
John asked us
Okay,
to
okay,
do
fair
the
enough.
pellet coat.
Fine.
Thank you.
Good.
So what should we be looking at?
Okay, so H is finished, we just picked up the comments from last week.
So fold this up?
Right, so that's finished. Now we're gonna look at C, which is a combination of E and
I
H.
have G on here, next one.
Oh, you don't have, oh, I apologize, okay.
So we're gonna take the,
C is the last one.
C is the last one, okay,
we're
so
gonna
we'll hold
take the
off on
C
that
and we're
one.
gonna put that up there.
Put this stuff up here for now.
Okay. Now, G is similar to H, and I apologize that everything's starting to
C.
look the same.
C,
Oh, wait,
C.
is that
No,
G?
but
Yeah,
we're
G.
doing G.
The only thing with G,
Oh, we're
it
doing
never
G.
stands alone. It's
We're
always,
doing
if
G.
we have one on the entire site and it's attached to an E.
Put that up there, we're gonna do G instead.
Okay.
Okay, so G is unique
We're
in
gonna
that
do
it
G.
never stands alone. There's one.
G.
Come on,
Madam Chair, there is a sitting
We're having a
voting
seat.
members on this. C will be presented after G. It'll be item number 3. This is item number 2, and it's model G. And the sitting members are Coombs, McLaughlin, Camp, and Oliver.
And this is an actual application?
Correct.
It's not on the agenda yet.
Gee whiz.
This is G. It's on
Thank
the
you for
agenda.
clarifying that, John.
Keep it the way it's moving. It's gonna be me.
Does everyone have an enlarged site plan of the area?
Yes, yes, there's only one G.
There's only one G and it's the pink color
right.
and it's there. Okay, so everybody has that. Okay, so basically, the G has a smaller leg in the back. It's almost identical to the H, except this is a 3-bedroom and these are two bedrooms. So, what we did,
Dinah, did you submit new drawings with that? Or did you
I
bring them
have,
from-
I have it myself.
Okay, thank you.
For some reason, I had in my mind C was next. Okay, so this is the G, full size. G, full size. And, how many copies?
One.
Yeah, we'll look at it together.
All right,
Yes,
are
we
you
have one
ready
thing.
to tell us what you did?
Okay, so the G is a G module adjacent to an E module. They're two separate buildings, but they are connected by about a 15-foot length of wall. On the G, because it's only 43 feet back on the leg, we did not articulate it the same as the former T-shaped building. It is a flat building back there. There wasn't quite enough room to pop out another form. And between the two, you're going to have this back courtyard. We have the front farmer's porch to carry it through with the other designs. And the side entry will be to, I believe it's the west. And other than that, it's,
Dina, did we say something about the dormers before being small? I can't remember.
they were too square before.
Too square, okay.
Right, so this time we made them narrower.
Right, okay.
They were, I think, 3 foot, oh, now they're 2'6".
I just think,
Did you agree to do away with the dormers?
No,
We said on one
Let's-
design we would show them and one we wouldn't. And if you look at the original H design that we handed you earlier today, we took the dormers off, just so you could see one with and one without.
All right. Kevin, but Abby was speaking.
I had mentioned that there should be no dormers, because there's space up there, so what, they don't serve any purpose. And
Let's, Johnny, let Abby, because she was right in the middle of her
Sorry, all right.
opinion.
sorry, I was just, I recently saw on a house where the dormers are particularly small, and it does look, if we're going to have dormers, I think these dormers should be a little bit bigger. Thank you for making them more vertical, but
I can also add some width to the dormer, not necessarily just the window. We can make them wider and taller.
somewhere between, so that is a D maybe, no, I guess it's not.
That's almost the same size.
Yeah, so I would say somewhere between the D and the B, if there's a one.
What do you think about it, just a B up there?
Yeah, I don't know what that would look like, but I just think these look a little,
Dinky.
dinky. Thank
Okay,
you.
okay, that's not a problem.
On your, have you got anything more you'd like to say?
That's just my, no, and I'm trying to think about, because I know John's gonna bring this up about the dormers, so, I think they actually add something to that big roof, so I'm sort
I
of in
think
favor
that's
of
why
them.
we thought they were good last time, was because they
Okay,
brought the building down a little bit, don't you think?
yeah, that's all I have for the moment.
Don, do you want to say, do you have something to say?
Yes, I got two north, two south elevations, no east and west. Now, these have south, east, west and north.
There's only one rendering. I'm sorry, there's not 2 pages to this one. There's just
No,
one.
it's just an afternoon. You know, nothing is put together one-on-one. You keep throwing
this
things
is
at it,
just
one
one.
after the other, all right? It's very confusing.
There's only one of these.
There's just one rendering. We didn't create that yet, so we wanted to get your comments on this before we got to the other
Well,
side.
probably this,
On this.
Yeah, this is the same building. We're basically presenting today 3 images, the H, the G, and the C.
That's one.
While he's looking it over, then can I ask you a question? On your north and south elevation, are you seeing building G plus E, which gives it that length?
Yes, you're seeing, this is north.
Yeah.
Here's Old South Road. So you're seeing the back of G and the back of E, and that's the
Okay,
courtyard.
that's what I thought. Because it just looked long enough.
Right, oh yeah, they're attached.
Johnny, have you got some more to say?
where's the G, that's the orange one?
There's just one on the entire side.
G
It's
is
dead
pink.
centered. The G, the pink.
What is that, right there? That's an F, okay, I can't see that far, okay.
That's okay.
All right, fine. There's no comment.
So massing wise, we just
All
like
right,
to get your feedback.
Val, you're next.
I actually think it looks good. I maybe would leave the dormers on the hip section, the G, and take them off the E.
Oh,
And that would be my only comment.
All right, so, then do you want to, does everybody want to see how it's drawn up, so we'll ask for revisions?
But it's not doing very much.
No, it's just changing the size.
Do you need to see the size of the dormers is really the issue.
Could she go one size up, could you go one size
yeah,
up
I
from a
can
B?
put the B shape up on the roof.
Yeah.
Which is, it's a little deeper, a little wider.
Yes, I think we, and that's just on the G building.
On G only, right.
Does that, can I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
It's a nice compromise, John. You got, the dormers taken off the E part.
I heard you.
I know.
All right, the next one now is C.
And this is the same sitting commissioners.
Eugene? This goes to this, right?
Yeah, this goes with us.
C, you should have full-size copies of. too confusing, I'll just give you one image instead of all four on the views to see them together.
Sean?
It's getting his attention, it's.
See,
Where is that?
I don't
On here, I don't see one.
Are you being funny?
C is
together.
Oh,
the two of them, right?
no, that's a G. C is cool, I guess.
Yeah,
we
C
have
is-
one?
C is
Yeah.
the two of them together, right?
I think that looks good.
The H and the
C
E.
is H and E, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
C.
So C is this,
Yes, correct. It shows the gable fronts on the H, and the C has not changed. That's the north and east.
140 feet long.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right,
don't worry, it's the same.
so, Val, have you had a chance to look at them?
It's the same, don't worry.
It's a combo of kind of what we just looked at, so it's,
This one.
it's,
Basically, it's located on the site here. It's located 1, 2, 3, 4 times on the site.
4 times on the same site.
Correct. One in the middle, and then 3 clustered over here. And then one on the left.
Ah,
I think it's fine.
I think,
Could we just do the dormer thing again? Just change that?
Yes, the dormers will be addressed. Now, the only question I have is,
Do they-
on the C, should we consider keeping the dormer on the E?
Yeah,
Okay.
just, every little bit helps differentiate, kind of.
What about on the H? Over the front door.
Do we have that one?
what H?
The H
I
part of
think
this,
that part of the confusion is all the different,
on the H part over the front door, do you want those 2 dormers in the roof?
Right here, I guess.
John, may I ask, so this is an application for 3 different locations?
Can't be.
no.
No,
It's for
one
Let's switch
application,
this up.
each application is put in individually.
This
So-
is map and parcel 68, or map 68, parcel 3.
Where is that on here, though?
It's right here.
The C module.
Module CQ plan right here.
Very top.
Okay.
So personally, I think over the front, on that 4 gable coming forward, that E part of the C block, of the C conglomerate, on the E part of that, I think the dormers could be the Bs up in the roof, but I think they make it too complicated over
The H.
over the H, yes.
Too much.
Yeah, just, I think that makes it too busy up there because of these 2 gables. That's my, what do you think?
Yeah, sounds good.
Other than that, I think it's well proportioned and then I don't
All
have
right.
anything to say.
Thank you. Johnny, do you have anything to say?
I have a question. On the north elevation of Bottle Street, what are the small windows, 1 4? Why aren't they the same size as the rest of them?
Those are restrooms and kitchens.
Okay, there's no restrooms in this building?
It all depends.
He is full of piss and vinegar today.
Actually, if
Jesus.
you look on the side, you will see, if you look to the side here, you'll see a small one.
That was E,
Not
she
funny.
wanted the dormers
Don't
to
encourage
move
him.
from.
It depends, if you look at the floor
These
plan.
these are all the same size, that's fine. These are small, it's in the bathroom.
Right,
That's
that bathroom
Not the
wall
front door though.
happens to be in front of the fixture, so we have to make it smaller. If there's a bathroom along this wall, it may just be the flank
Yeah, it's
portion of the bathroom wall, so we can use a larger
5
window.
feet, 4
Well,
feet.
what's the difference, your bathroom, the same size, difference on the outside wall, right?
Well, you can ask for
No,
that.
this is, all these little things are
Oh,
happening.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Such
I
a large
understand
building,
your
that's such a
question.
shared
Yeah.
porch.
No, I think what he's saying is he's wondering why you can't just have a big window. You may
Yeah.
want to show him in the plan, if you got a plan, why one has to be small and the other one can be big. That's his
I
question.
think they don't have enough depth on the
Yeah,
site.
I have a feeling that we talked about that.
Okay, on this is the
But
E,
that isn't
okay,
the
the floor plan for the E portion.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you don't have any bathrooms located on the outside walls except in the back, right here, okay?
Okay.
So that particular view is not exactly shown on this elevation. If you go to
Over here.
no, well, and those are smaller windows as well. But if you look here, this is a smaller window. These two are small windows in the back. They match the plan. So the back of E is a little different than the front of E.
This wall.
Yeah.
You just show me this.
These two
Show
windows,
me this.
these two windows are smaller on the back of E.
This one and this one, and this one, right. Where are these two windows?
Those two windows are right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, one on each floor.
Show him on the plan.
Right here.
Go ahead.
This window, this window. Okay, so those are small. If you center yourself with these two doors. Here, if you don't mind.
These two are small.
Right, right.
Right.
But this is the back of E, and these are those two doors here, right here. And then flanked on each side of that door is a small window, small door.
That makes sense where they are located. Now, my question was, why aren't they the same size? It doesn't affect their inside or interior or exterior.
They're the same size as far as a small window goes. All the small windows are the same size as that.
Something's not ringing a bell, all right?
Yeah.
If you have got small windows, why can't they be to match the rest with harmony?
Well, it's a function of the floor plan and the elevation.
The floor plan got nothing to do with it.
I think it's harmonious.
It wouldn't change if there was a larger window. There's nothing in here that's gonna affect that.
Maybe if you look
We're
straight,
wasting time on this. I think it's fine.
I didn't hear you, what did you say?
I said, I think we're wasting time on this, and I think it looks fine.
You do your job, I'll do mine.
All right, we'll move it along.
Don't make me say what I'm gonna.
Oh, don't say it. Don't say
Thursdays,
it.
we gotta start bringing Snickers on Thursdays.
Done.
Everybody needs one.
All right, we're gonna wrap it. Can I ask you one question? Please, on the south elevation of Model C
right, here.
with the little porch, that's a very narrow porch. Is it that narrow because you're running out of space, or what was?
Yeah, we were running out of space here behind this is C and this is H. But I'm actually gonna pull it up a little bit on the site.
Okay, so you could be able to make that a little wider?
I can, it's 4
Deeper.
feet now. Would you, it's 4 feet deep now. It is the narrowest porch on the lot, for sure.
It scales at 3.
3 feet only from the face of the building? Okay, so we can make it 4.
All right,
Like,
that would be good.
yeah.
Because
That
it's
is- that
not
is
the
the
major
smallest
front
one.
door for this building anyway.
No, it's just bedroom doors.
All right, now this is an application, so we need about,
And which elevation was that for?
that was Model C, south elevation. Module C. So I need a vote on this, and a motion on this, so we can pass it.
Okay, so I think, if I can remember correctly, on the Model C, I'd like to make a motion to approve with the dormers missing from above the H section on the middle of that massing, but keep them on the, above the E on either side of the gable. And
On the
E section,
E,
yes.
okay.
And the size of those dormers is to become a B as we
B window.
approved
Right.
on the, G, is it the G? As approved on Model G, so there's consistency.
And widen the porch by a
And,
foot.
yeah, the south elevation, widen the porch by, add another foot to it, making it 14 feet. Was there anything else?
I don't think so, I think that was it, wasn't it, Don? So, all those in favor of that motion?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Do you have that? All?
I printed 6, so maybe you can 4.
Thanks. Do we have anyone here for 14 Cherry? No? That was a carryover from Tuesday, was it? Was it not?
You got through it.
No, I've already had like 6. Yeah. 14 Cherry. Okay, so hold, can I have a motion to hold that for representation?
Hold for representation.
That was items 1 and 2.
Oh, for reference.
Yeah. Did I have a motion?
Yes.
Okay, all those in favor of Val's motion, hold. Aye. Okay. And Mirka was hanging around here, wasn't she not? Oh, I think she's got her sons, so maybe they're out in the hall.
I went by there today. Boy,
How's it look?
I got
you can
pictures,
see
you want a picture?
forever.
No.
No, I don't wanna see it.
On a clear day, you can see forever.
Yeah, it's such a shock when something's cleared. It just, you don't
Well,
anticipate it even
particularly
if
when
they
they
do.
said it wasn't going to be cleared, it makes us,
Well, but they
Oh,
have to
come
clear
on.
some
Really? She's
foundations.
gone?
yes, they were going to nestle.
Yeah, all right. Well, so we gotta move it along.
Motion to hold 3 through 7 for representation.
Right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
3 through 7. All those Hawthorne ones.
She saw what was going on and she
Um,
laughed.
Well, I know she had
I would've.
her son and all that. All those in favor of whose motion
Mine.
to hold? Of Val's motion to hold for representation?
Aye.
Okay, 8 Flint Road.
This isn't here, it's actually a new commercial building, and it's out on Tomahawk and Front Road.
Are you saying that we should hear it or not hear it?
Yeah, it's fairly straightforward.
It is?
Unless you-
There he is.
Oh, just in time. Yep. Oh, they took all your chairs away.
Thank you.
Hey, John, how you doing?
Welcome.
Flint Road is that,
Coffin's Pit.
it's a little spur off of, well, not off of
Old
Tomahawk.
South?
It's off.
Well, you know the pit,
Spearhead.
Tomahawk is the one, these are all like filling in the old gravel pit out there by the airport. It's all very industrial.
It's also sunken down.
Right.
So I'm 9 feet lower than Toscana, which is the next door neighbor. And
As built
to the
as
back of
well.
me is Gray Lady Marine, and
Yeah.
I'm 9 feet lower than that there.
I wasn't on this. Oh, gosh.
A lot
You're
of those
actually-
places have the retaining.
Yeah,
Over
and
there.
you're
And
actually
we're
like
doing,
shingling
we're
the
actually
wall.
here for the hardscape and for the building, so.
Okay, given the context of this, folks, you know, and the fact that I think a lot of those buildings out there were approved as metal, right?
I think this
Standing
looks
seam
great.
Yeah, this is, as I say, I have the building next door, and it's, you know, there aren't too many nice wood
Yeah,
structures
I
in there. so-
agree.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, okay.
And it's
Any-
regular asphalt shingle?
Just
Any,
globally,
Yeah.
the bottom, of the trim on the window, if that could
Oh,
run
yeah,
through
you're showing this
instead
picture
of like a
frame.
picture frame.
No,
I'm sure it's meant to be
It's
a-
not, it will be Robbie Reed's,
Oh, he's
set up
good.
for the Anderson.
And then just the posts on the outside deck look kind of narrow. Just
4
like-
by 4.
Yeah, they probably should be
why
6
why
by
not do a
6.
6 by 6?
Yeah,
The next door, the house I have next door, building
I'm
you
not-
approved 4 by 4, so I want to keep it consistent.
really? You
I
know
don't want to
that
have,
hold on.
He has 4 by 4 approved next.
it's in the
I
back
don't
of the
think that
house.
should be
You can't
6
see it
by
from
6 on the second floor deck.
It's in the back of the house, you can't see it from anywhere.
Oh, yeah,
Other than that.
okay, so, do we actually want to make note of the, sill on the windows?
Yeah, so that
Or
should
the
be a
approval.
regular framing, whatever that's called.
Just
Yeah, that-
instead of a
Not
picture
picture
frame?
frame.
It's going to be an inch and a half still.
Right,
Yeah.
with an inch and a half sill on the windows.
You sure you don't want that to be 6 inches? It looks 4 inches.
What's that?
Your posts?
The post is, next door house has, the very next door house has the same
I'm just-
deck.
no, I'm
and it's
worried
4 by
about-
4, and I don't want to have inconsistency between the two
I'm
buildings.
just worried about it structurally. I just-
Structurally, it's fine,
Okay.
more than fine.
There's steel.
There's,
No.
I'm kidding.
It's all engineered.
Okay. So,
Motion to approve as submitted with just that note. He doesn't have to change the drawing.
right, the note,
Says
Saying the
inch
sill
and
will
a
be
half
typical.
sill.
okay. All those in favor of Val's motion?
Aye.
Oh, that's.
The motion was to approve with, the windows having, regular sills, not a picture frame.
And I had a comment
Oh.
on it.
Oh, go, okay.
The floor plan shows
Yes.
a door here, a door here.
Yep.
right? And I'm just curious, it says, eight by eight deck.
I'm leaving in half an hour.
There's 2 doors.
Because I only have.
Right, first floor's got 2 doors, right?
Here's one there and one under there.
Okay. Apparently this one goes up to the apartment.
Correct.
Could that be changed to a six-panel door?
No,
It always shows the front door when you make a
you
delivery.
can't see it from anywhere.
Huh?
Can't see it from anywhere. Can't see it. Can't see it from the street, you can't see it from anywhere.
Well, I don't know.
Your, Chris, show him on your site plan where that door is.
So here is the street out here. The door is way back here. This is a fence that goes along here. You're never gonna see it from the street. Can't see it. There's a building right here, building literally right here.
I didn't see the fence, that's all I was looking at.
Yeah. Well, the fence was actually approved on the other lot.
And what is it?
Huh?
Oh, we're gonna
That's a
review that
retaining
next.
wall, and that's next.
John, this is in the old gravel pit, so they're building all those wall, okay. All right, so I think.
Val has a motion on the
Yeah,
floor.
so all those in favor of Val's motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and now we're gonna hear the retaining wall.
Okay.
Do we need to look at it? I mean, okay, we'll look at it, but basically this is running along the back side.
It's going on 2 sides because I
Oh, oh.
Boatyard and Toscana.
Yeah, and there's a lot out there. Remember Billy Trot had a lot.
Yep, this is gonna go quick, so
So,
be ready.
that's gotta be done, so I make a motion to approve.
Hold on, okay, I'm gonna hold that motion just for a second. Make sure John's okay with the retainage.
Well,
Thank
he-
you for your interest.
It has to be done.
You're a voting member of this board, John.
What?
You are a voting member of this board.
Okay,
What do you
I
think?
vote in favor.
All right. Is that a motion?
So motion.
Okay. All those in
100%.
favor of John's motion to approve as submitted?
Aye.
Okay, excellent, great.
Have a good afternoon.
Gotta admit it.
I know that from firsthand experience. Okay. It's to you. You made one up?
Yeah, and I have it in my head.
solemnly. Richer and poorer. That's really good.
I think we should draw it out.
That's very fun. Yeah, that's really good.
Hey, John. You good? How are you? I can see that.
Boy, I can just picture it. Totally picture. That is funny. Okay, so,
Hi, how are
Mr.
you?
Newman, did we review this
Last Tuesday,
last Tuesday?
a week ago,
I'm
Yeah.
probably not on it then.
Correct. Coombs, McLaughlin, Camp, Oliver, and Welch.
Okay.
All right,
okay,
Bobby,
so this is that little cottage out on Western Avenue.
right.
And you asked me to speak with I represent a prospective buyer. And his window of purchase is closing, that's why I rushed through this and got something in for Tuesday night's meeting. So, what I have sketched on the sheet there are two conceptual plans of hopefully moving forward. The people that I work for, of course, want me to stress to you that they are long-term Nantucket people. They're very concerned, as everyone is, with architectural fabric and so forth. And they have contract to purchase this property. Their big concern is the condition of this cottage, okay? The survey sheet does say that it's contributing, but it is 1946 construction. And my wife and daughter actually know the owners, and so I had a little chat with one of the daughters. And she said that this cottage has been in their family for quite a while, and they believe that the oldest portion runs between the ivy chimney and this little guy in the back. There's a little section there. That form is a 10-12 pitch. There's a 10-12 pitch, and the one that connects over to the right is a 12-12 pitch. You can see that when they formed those together, if you look closely, that ridge has been taken off and made to slant down so that they could meet that. There are two different ridge heights, so that they wouldn't have the problem that you were just talking about with the little, Ray called it a pink, or something like that, all right? They want me to point out to you that the structure is very compromised. If you could pass that around, please. It is literally sitting on the ground. It has had all of those different appendages added onto it over the years, including elements such as that. Okay. The
Elements,
Do you
No.
have these pictures?
no, if you could just pass those
yeah, yeah,
around,
no.
please, that would be.
We have interior pictures.
Yeah, yeah. Here is the building doesn't meet any kind of modern code. You can see that the door height on the outside is just over 6 feet. The plate height on the exterior is just over 6 feet, okay? Which of course translates everything to the inside so that everything is undersized. There are 2x4 rafters, of course no insulation. The kitchen is essentially non-existent. It's in short, the building is not really habitable, and there's no way that we could build this today and make it meet code. So, from that perspective, the owners would really like to move this off for someone else to enjoy or have it demolished. Okay? That being said, all right, I have, for the sake of compromise, tried to, I came up with one quick scheme that would incorporate at least the main portion from this gable to this gable, perhaps. Okay, that would be the scheme on the left, on the lower left.
Right.
And that was just a quick schematic, just completely for discussion, okay? For concept. Now, if that were acceptable to you folks as a group or to my client, we all have to understand that this has to be significantly restructured, okay? The floor has to be redone, the plates have to go up, the rafters have to be improved. So, if we were to move towards that concept, in flavor we could make it look the same, but would it be this building, this material? Most likely not.
Not even that little corner?
Which little?
Isn't that what you're saying?
Yeah.
You can save?
I'm saying that is literally sitting on the ground as the photographs show. Okay, when you walk across the thing, the whole thing moves. The interior, the door heights in the interior, if you just take a second to look at those interior photos again, you can see that all the doors are 6 feet high.
I see that, but also just remember that these people have lived in it, I think, since 1959, that they moved in, and they've dealt with the doors and the windows and all the rest of it. And the other thing, just for a thing, there's nothing in it that's falling down rotten and not going to be able to be used, and that's sort of what our demolition things we look at are. I think looking at your two things here, I believe that the one on the left is what would fit in, but I will have.
So could I just continue?
Yeah.
On, and just to bring you up to my slow speed of concept. Okay. The other concept, which I think might be more palatable for everyone, is to take this older section running from here to here,
Yeah.
or some substantial portion of it, and relocate that someplace on the lot, maybe closer to the street, so that it looks like the cottage that it used to be.
Right.
And even though, depending on where we go with structure and development, it most likely will never be used as a dwelling again, more as
It could be a shed.
a cottage for kids, a shed, some sort of an accessory building.
Right, because
Okay.
in the summertime, they have a lot of kids there.
Yeah, it could be a great place for kids to camp out, okay? And for that purpose, I think it would work just fine. It might be a good compromise for everybody.
All righty, let's hear what they have to say. Abby?
Well, so let me get this straight. Would the sun porch stay?
No,
Would the?
that's unfortunate.
Oh, no, that's all right. So the L shape of this building,
With the two windows and the chimney,
the two windows in the chimney,
Right.
right?
Yep.
would be part of what they were saving.
What about this section?
That portion is one of the newer sections. The older original portion is the one with a nicer chimney,
All right.
okay?
So, obviously this shed would go.
I would
as well.
propose that we would take it to that intersection.
All right,
That-
well, in general, I just want to say that I would like to save this in its entirety. I understand that we have to compromise because a denial would just be, would be hard to do. So, I'm grateful that you're willing to work this into your
program.
But I am not for a demolition of the building. That's where I stand on that.
Then,
I think if he's gonna save at least the oldest piece of it, I'm okay with that.
alrighty,
And/or if he was gonna go with this kind of a look, that makes it look like it was part of the original building, I'm okay with that as well. It wouldn't have to be the original. There's such a huge difference between
Yes.
that and this.
uh,
I would even like to see this all new and
Right.
even
I
just
think that is-
mimic that.
Right,
This is
right, I
gonna
agree
be
with that
all
as well.
new.
Yeah.
It's just
So-
that the two-story looks so generic, and you're getting so close to Nantucket, historic Nantucket, on that, as you
It's
move that
Surfside.
way.
I am not
Sorry,
proposing,
sir, sorry.
I'm not proposing that that building necessarily go there. I only put it on for discussion,
Gotcha.
for schematic.
Okay.
Inside your
You
contract.
can't, you're not giving
Yeah.
the credit for that.
Steve,
No.
you have,
No.
you're on this, aren't you?
Yeah. It's contributing, it's not designated significant, it's not designated protected. I would support,
It is significant.
it's not, it hasn't been
Yeah,
designated
it's a
significant.
contributing.
They're different,
building.
they're different. They're different definitions when it comes to demo. So my feeling is that it's contributing, it's not designated significant, it's not designated protected. I would still like to see that it be somehow reutilized or a new design be incorporate the elements. And I believe that, I know you just put this out here for discussion, but I just want to say for the sake of a future design that area doesn't support a full two-story building. The buildings across the street and around it are one and what I call three-quarter story. So I would be looking at something that was more in line with those.
Johnny, have you got something?
Yeah. I heard every word you said about your slow conception of this project. And I understand it. Does that mean I'm slow too?
No, sir.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
So are we gonna hold
If they
for,
wanna move it, I'm all in
I
favor
think
of it.
it's just for a
Let me, can I
Direction?
say what I think, Steve?
absolutely.
I think if you save that section, all right, and use the left-hand drawing to show your customers that will fit. The other building, as you know, does not fit there at all.
I understand that.
So, and they agreed to use that little section as a shed
Keep
or
working on it.
whatever in the
If
front.
we can go with either concept, if we can take that little portion and move it someplace else, I can work with that. And if we can just save the flavor of that form and use it in the new building as my left-hand schematic indicated, I can make that work too.
I
So
think-
you guys
I like
just
that.
tell
I think
me
that-
what you want.
I like
That
that.
is exactly the direction we
Yeah.
want you to
That's
go
what
in.
we
The
want
ladder, you're gonna get a lot more support for the ladder concept.
Because in its insignificance, it's a very significant
Yeah. But
there's-
architecture.
No, don't take offense. If there's a
I'm
difference
taking
between.
offense because we're fighting for these small buildings and
But
they're-
Abby, the HDC can make a determination of significance. Because it's not determined that it's significant, it doesn't necessarily mean it's insignificant, but it means it's not, the definition
I
of
think we're
significant.
splitting hairs.
Well, that's what's in our act. when
Right,
it
so
comes
I
to
have the next
demo.
one
Well,
too, so.
and
And we should be
Well,
aware of it because we have some things that are even on appeal because of it.
Well, you know what, we have to
Fight.
stand up for what we believe in.
Right.
Yeah, I don't, well,
Okay, I have the next one too, so I'd love to get out of here.
Yeah,
So we
I
make,
bet we
Get
all
out.
do, right?
Yeah.
bring it
The
on.
motion
Okay.
on the move.
yeah, may I have
The
a
next one
motion
is the
that we
garage.
vote for revisions? Because he's got to draw this all
Yes,
up.
absolutely.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Say, you could withdraw this application and come in with a renovation structure.
That's what we wanna do. I just wanna go back and tell the person
Okay,
that I'm here for it,
Okay.
where we're
Sign
going.
off.
Come in and withdraw it in the office.
Robbie, sign that off.
Okay, I will.
All right, the next one is moving demo the garage.
Okay, same spiel with the garage, except the garage has gotta go. It's only 6 feet tall on the door, it's got a 3-foot knee wall over on the side. It is just, give us a break on this one. The door's 6 feet tall, you can't even get, you could even fit a car in there.
Or Matticat Advisory, right?
It's in
Surfside.
Surfside.
It's out on
Oh,
Western
Western
Avenue.
Avenue.
Yeah, it's way down at the edge. Beautiful
Right,
site.
right, I know.
Nobody wants it for storage across the street?
No, really?
Selling more.
Really?
Did you ask?
It's not significant.
We haven't asked anyone. I'm sure
They're
everyone.
open now.
Okay, can I make a suggestion? Just for this garage, could you document it, just yourself, I don't think it needs the, and keep it in consideration for an
Yes.
outbuilding, okay?
Indeed.
Like a shed or something.
Yep.
All right, that's
All right.
my motion,
Thank
that's
you.
my,
You're
So,
right on the left.
this
bottom of that
application
plan.
is
If you
being
want to add
withdrawn.
further, If you want to add to the cottage,
I'm only a worker
Okay.
bee. Somebody's got to tell me which way they want to go.
somebody,
are we saying he
That's
can
what we
demo
want
this
to
or not?
No, we're saying he can
Not
demo
yet.
or move.
No, we haven't
Or demo,
advertised it or anything.
I'll make a motion to demo or
Or
move,
move.
and document it and
Yeah.
try to fit it into your whole
Okay.
scheme.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you for being here. John, thanks for the note. That was very considerate.
I'm against.
What,
The demo,
the demo?
we're gonna make
I
it.
think.
Yeah, I get my questions answered. I'm against. It's okay, it got passed. It's a symbolic vote,
Sorry.
not on you.
All right, the next is yours.
Mine?
Oh, the next,
No?
well, no, not yours.
Oh, that I'm chair.
Yeah.
So, Bert, this you.
This was held for better drawings or something, right?
Paul, Jones, Camp, Oliver, and Welch.
All right, I don't have a picture of this house.
It's right in there where
West.
This is the garage.
No, I know where it
That's
is.
the mobile garage.
I just want to see a
trying to
picture
remember
of it.
Okay, so it looks to me, Bert, like you went from raising it up to a full 2 stories to raising it up a story and a half and giving us some shed dormers. Am I correct?
Right. You suggested shed dormers instead of raising it 4 feet on the side.
Right. Everybody get this one?
You have a photo of the existing?
Yeah, it's coming.
Oh, thank you.
See,
Yeah.
it's been a while since that we
Here.
reviewed this, so I'm just gonna say that the earlier submission, what they were doing was they were going from 1 story to full 2 stories. It just, pop the whole roof up. And we had made a few comments, but the most, I think, compelling was the idea of using sort of shed dormers. That, okay. This is like an interior enclosed
It's an
staircase.
exterior stairway, but it's enclosed.
Okay.
The building next to it, of mine, has the same sort of thing, except it's only enclosed halfway up, top half.
Do you have a picture of that?
You probably do in those pictures, I don't know if you see it or not.
And then these are posts. There's a little window up the top.
Oh, is this
you see
open?
an eight.
Yeah. All this underneath is open. These are two
bizarre.
posts.
Yeah, that is.
You know,
weird.
I've seen that, well, not out here
It
necessarily.
doesn't show on the pictures.
In, with Nantucket in mind?
This is a contributing building.
And you can see this from Franklin Street, I think, the back.
No, I don't think you
here you
can.
go. Here's-
Val?
Yeah.
Val?
Oh, they were already running up.
You don't think so?
Ruli's house is in the way. Unless you have x-ray vision, you can't see through Ruli's house and all the trees.
That's unreal.
Yeah, but if you stand at the driveway,
Oh, what driveway?
if you stand on oh, her house is right here.
Okay.
I own the 2 buildings behind it, and then the 3rd building back is on Franklin Street is the Ruli's house.
Can I read the HSAB comments while we're all reviewing this?
Yeah.
Okay. It says, This house is circa 1922. Anderson's simulated divided lights are not appropriate, nor are they in HDC. I don't know exactly what that means. Is this in the LHD?
No, it's R1.
Okay.
It's in the old historic district.
It is?
For-
For
HDC.
Okay.
Yes, yep.
Okay.
But when I bought it, it wasn't.
Well, that's tough to hear.
Oh, boy.
It was only 30 years ago.
Okay, need much better plans. There are no as-builts which are required. There are no cardinal directions. Require a full set of plans. Based on info provided, raising height of structure is inappropriate because of surrounding context and what it will do to the look of this building. 4 feet is in excess of what is appropriate.
But that was the old one.
Is that the old one?
That's the old one, yeah.
Okay.
He dropped it to
Well-
3'6".
Okay. So I already read that last time this was up.
For me, the thing that I don't really have a problem with the dormers. I think it's a much more sensitive approach to this. It's that back thing.
The staircase.
It
Is that what
can't,
you mean?
why can't it go to the ground? Why can't it
could
just
go
be
to the ground,
shingled?
yeah, if that's what you want. Because it's gonna, you know, you can frame that stairway all the way to the ground, but what's gonna happen is you're gonna come out, the foundation is about 4 feet high on the back of that house. So you're gonna come out at a 4-foot level and then start up the stairs, because you're gonna come off
Yeah,
the floor in the
yeah,
house
yeah.
to start up the stairs. So
Right.
that's why we even draw it all the way to the ground, but I can make it go all the way to the ground if you want it.
I don't know what that means, though. It's 4 feet to the ground.
Just at the if you look at where the staircase sort of ends, you see that line, there's a deck there? You
Yeah.
s-
So
I've
there,
been-
there should be a line here?
The foundation on the back of this building is 4 feet high.
Where is it drawn?
Yeah, so it's down here, so that's,
So
okay.
what would happen, you gotta come out at the 4-foot level, the floor level of the interior house to come out to get into that stairway to go up.
Yeah,
You wouldn't go down.
I think you need to come up with another solution for
Now,
that.
the problem is, the house is so small, that there's no way to put an interior
Well,
stairway.
you could add an interior staircase by
Exactly.
making a gable
There,
form
that's right.
and
Right
a
there.
door, or a door. And that would be much more
Keeping
right.
than that.
Explain it to me again, I didn't understand.
So instead of this
Gotta
little
hire
thing
her.
on posts, I'm too busy. This could be, you could just make this a
Little salt box, right?
Right,
Bring the whole back of the house out.
correct, and
Yeah.
then have like, you could have a little window here or
Honestly,
no?
Bert, I think I was looking at the same thing. I mean, because this is a little sort of
This is
strange,
and
and
that would
it would
be
be
great.
easier to do.
And that would give a little bit more room inside the house, too.
It would give more
Yeah.
room inside the house,
And it wouldn't look.
and it would just look like a little addition on the house.
Yep,
Want to bring it up 4 feet?
Yeah,
Yeah, whatever you have to.
you know,
then
for your
Get
staircase.
it up
Yeah.
and.
Should we hold
so
for
we'll hold
revision?
Okay, so, but
Motion to hold
I
for
just want to make
revision.
sure everybody's okay with the idea of raising it up a story and a half like is shown with the
I am,
dormer.
but
Yeah.
does John wanna see what we did here?
John McLaughlin?
Yeah.
I don't think
He
John's
wasn't
on
here
this.
that day, so he wasn't.
Okay,
I think Steven's on it. Am I correct?
Yep, Paul Coombs, Camp, Oliver, and Welch.
Yeah.
okay.
So what did Hassad say it was all right to lift to a story and a half?
Well, I don't think they wanted to lift it.
Incomplete,
Or no, what they said was raising it X number of feet is inappropriate, but Bert is doing less now.
You suggested last time to go to dormers instead of trying to raise the sidewalls 4 feet and put the roof 4 feet higher.
That's what we said.
So we
So
left the
how
roof,
much is it going up?
not going up at all.
All right,
You're just gonna take that whole roof off and put a new roof on with the dormers in it.
With a little
And
knee
then,
wall.
then in the, on the back of the building, instead of having the exterior stairway, we'll just bring the whole back of the building out 4 feet, so the stairway will be inside the building.
Right, and the windows have to be TDL,
Do you what?
True
true
divided
divided
light.
lights.
Yeah.
Okay, and Bert, that's because unfortunately, in
It's
the
historic
intervening
buildings.
time, it's not the zoning old historic district, it's the HDC old historic district that will require that.
Well, I have a question then, because I went out there and I went 2 houses down the street to 48, which is new in Dick Cumby's building.
Yeah,
Okay,
And it has 6/6s,
yeah.
but they're the Anderson thermal pane window ones. And then I went to 50 Westchester, and there's 6/6s, and they're
Maybe that's where
thermal
the line
pane.
ends.
maybe that's where the line is, number one, but number two is.
Oh, the
is
line ends at New Lane.
at New Lane. And
Is that where it ends?
we don't want to perpetrate something that is wrong because somebody else did it.
Absolutely correct.
That's,
Anyway,
Okay, but in my other 2 buildings on the same property, I already have Anderson windows now. Anderson thermal
I would,
No, true divided lights.
right.
Vote for revision.
okay, all those in favor of Abby's
Chairman, I
motion?
recuse from this
Aye.
application.
Okay. Oh, actually, you're not on it anyway, John, you missed the first one. Okay, so you don't even need to. All those in favor of Abby's motion? Aye. Thank you.
So I just need to get new plans in for the
Yeah.
next meeting.
Okay, Tomahawk, Chip, Webster, Associates.
Is this,
Yeah, Brett.
Well, usually the Tomahawk stuff takes about 30 seconds, unless you're doing something really weird.
Well, it's already basically approved. I think the board just wanted a site plan that showed the air conditioning vent or the vents on the roof more clearly. And I'll
Okay.
write that.
No, I know it's.
We'll see.
Is this, did you hold this, or does this have a board?
This has had comments at the last meeting. So actually,
Hang on.
Coombs, McLaughlin, Camp, Oliver, and
Diane, Steve.
I don't know.
So what you got there?
Okay, sure. Ethan Griffin, CWA. The board, if this is building A, the big one, yep, the board held for a roof plan and a clarified landscape plan showing the location and utilities, so that's what we've provided. Again, just to recap, this was an application to cover the smoke evacuation requirements by the fire
Oh,
department.
that's, yours is the one with all the stuff on it.
Correct, the vents, yep.
Really big.
That is some complicated roof. It's not really gonna be like that, is it?
In terms of where we're sloping it,
No, I mean, this is just a flat,
it's a flat roof, that's just showing where the drains are.
oh.
Yeah, the X's are where the drain would be, so it's it's essentially flat, but it's pitched. But John's, the way this came about providing this plan is John just wanted clarification that we had moved those roof vents as far as we could from the edge of the slope roof. So,
Yeah, you're way in there.
yeah, they're in there, so you're not gonna see it like it's flat.
what are you doing? Is this the new marijuana factory?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, because in that case,
There's the helicopter pads.
I don't see enough security fencing, sorry.
The walls on the
Wind
inside.
blows.
It's just a facade, you know. It's a vault in there.
Abby, you have,
no, I have no problem with it. I mean, it's just what is what it is, and that's what they need to do, whatever they're doing in there.
Yeah, I wanted to just get ahead of it and let you guys know too, because I didn't want to come back, you know, when the thing's all done.
I don't think there's any help for it, it is what it is.
Yeah, it's an anomaly.
Steve, you have something?
No, I appreciate the clarifications, thanks for letting me on the plan.
Johnny's on it, is he?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes,
yes,
yes.
you are on this.
He's the one that asked for the.
Yeah, John asked for the roof line.
Right.
Come on, I swear to wicked God, I'm leaving in 4 minutes.
Hear a little bit of America stuff.
All right, next is
I gotta
building,
make a call.
so may I have a motion on this?
Motion to approve.
It's getting approved.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Johnny, are you an aye? He's an aye. The next one is
So,
same building?
Building
same-
B, same property.
Same
Motion to
property.
approve.
Is it the hardscape?
No, the board would want a clarification on that little cutout that we're doing on that vertical board fence that faces
Yeah.
the whole gate.
The detail on that?
Yeah, not whole gate, Toscana yard. So we just put a little 3D view in there to kind of illustrate that beautiful blue sky. That shows the railing too. The board also wanted clarification on that.
I
metal
just
railing.
want to say, I think there was some concern about where you have all this equipment, and is that a separate,
That was one we just did.
that was the roof plan, I thought.
The roof plan, and we were providing a 4-foot board fence around the.
But that
enclosure.
4 feet is not high enough to cover.
No, we've recessed it 3 feet.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we're covered on all of this. This is the
Item 2 on
John
It
said,
is what it is. There's no helping it.
I like that fence.
Motion to approve.
Looks cool.
Abby was just gonna take a look at it, right?
Yes, no, no, this is fine.
So may I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
All those in favor of Val's motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thanks for putting it along Thursday too.
Hey,
Appreciate it.
you can tell by the joy
Yeah,
that's emanating from all of us how much we're really
Loving
thrilled
it.
to be here. It's important to do. Get stuff done
Okay.
for people. Yay?
Do we need a motion to go back to Hawthorne?
Motion to go back to Hawthorne.
Okay, thanks.
Hope you
All those,
want a motion to reopen item 3%.
Yeah,
that's the motion.
That's-
All those in
that's-
favor?
And I
Aye.
apologize for, I didn't realize
Back
it
to
was
what one?
zipped. I thought I was off.
We're going back to the last thing we were reviewing on Tuesday night. Remember, John, and we were going to continue it today.
3 to 7.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
look at these split skirts.
Okay.
This one?
So, there was sort of the overarching concern that Diane had brought up about the amount of vegetation that came out.
Did you go out, you want to see it?
Oh,
I picked it.
yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah.
You
I
want
mean,
your dog out
I've
there.
been there for, who's sitting on it?
Maybe I'm not on it.
I have a question.
Actually, nobody, because, theoretically, we're,
It's a new one.
This is just a random question. The house that's there, the ranch house, did that get approved to move or
I believe
demo?
so. I believe so.
so, maybe, Mirka, why don't you tell us what you're in for these applications, right? You're in for 1, 2, 3, you're in for 5 applications. And those applications are for landscaping, are they not, for each unit?
Hardscape.
Yeah, for each unit, just
Just
the
hard,
buds,
just hardscape?
just the hardscape, yeah,
Okay.
so that's, yeah. So we'll go to that.
Well,
Yeah.
can you remind me of something?
Sure.
So there's each individual,
Cluster.
house
Yes,
or cluster, whatever you want to call it.
yes, we have.
But then there's this sort of communal space, correct?
Exactly.
Now, if memory serves me, you had a landscape plan for the whole communal space, right?
Screening plan, yeah, so part
Yeah,
of the.
I mean, which included vegetation.
Which I included, it was part of those small 11 by 17 sets. So the part of that was included portion of the screening plan for the entire development, which.
All right, so I want to sort of,
This is my friend. That's
hello,
Tom.
friend.
Hey, Tom.
How's it going,
Hey.
Tom?
Tom Crawford.
So, I want to, as part of the review of all of these applications, get closure on this, vegetation thing. Okay? That you brought up, Diane? And so, would it be fair to talk about, well, so a plan was approved for both existing vegetation and new vegetation to supplement that existing vegetation. That was approved for the communal areas of this property.
The houses along Hummock Pond Road.
And I think, yeah, was a softscape approved for each one of the pods, or?
That's what I'm coming right now to you guys. So the
Okay.
houses were approved as they are, and I'm practically just following up with each particular house as for the patios and driveways and material specifications. But the plan, the development plan was approved, it already went to the land court. The HDC approved every house on each lot.
Right.
At their
No, no,
location.
got that.
Yeah, and then the requirement by, between the planning and you as a HDC was to maintain a vegetated buffer in this first 10 feet
Yes.
of the street,
Correct.
which I generated this screening plan, so, which shows the existing trees plus everything what we take out, replace with the mix of native plants, as a, native plants consisting of the.
And
Also, they were supposed to have screening along the back end of Hawthorne Lane.
Exactly, so this
What do
plan,
you- what do
Diane?
you- Yeah, I was there for an hour today.
Do we all have copies of this?
Yes,
pretty
it's
well.
part of this
Oh,
11 by
okay.
17 sets.
But the only thing that is now left along Hawthorne Lane is Japanese knotweed.
And that's always been there, Diane, and I actually.
But it's not a thing that can be used as blocking vegetation.
So practically then, as we will move forward with developing each lot, we'll remove the Japanese knotweed and we substitute with a proper native planting for the screening. Because exactly the hawthorn is even more, there's nothing, there's just overgrown knotweed. And I brought this GIS map which kind of shows this is the up. So this, where am I?
So you've got a few copies.
Yeah, I got a few copies for everybody. So it's practically, this is from 2014, just to kind of, just give a better sense of what was vegetated.
I had no idea what was going on. I mean, I knew something was in there.
So I just want to give us a little bit better visuals that if I look at the hawthorn, so this is what Diane is referring. This portion had no tall vegetation to start with, and as of now, it's just buffer of knotweed, which we want to get rid of.
Okay.
This is the time to kill it.
But at the
It
same
is?
time, we want to keep it, that at least for now, for time being, the buffer, just so it's protect people going in and out, just keep it. So as we will be moving forward, we are going to we will clean knotweed, we get rid of all invasive plants and substitute. So we don't want to necessarily disturb everything at the same time, but once we get to the area, which are those lots affected with the knotweed, it's all get cleared and removed.
On the major part, right now, there are 9 trees left. 9.
In the middle.
In the middle.
Yeah.
I counted them.
Okay.
Maybe there were around the edges, just where it runs out, and Harry's property stops. But everything else in that center, with the exception of 9 trees, have been cleared. And I have a picture to prove it if anybody wants to see it.
Well, I definitely have seen it.
And I feel, I believe there's more than 9. There's few clusters with just 5 trees. There is birch tree, there is,
There's a freestanding pine and a cluster in the middle of 5 trees, and, which I can show you on
Yeah. And I
my
have-
photographs. But the point is, Mayor, and it's not your fault,
I understand.
because you weren't there, was when we first looked at this plan, we were told that the buildings would be nestled in amongst the trees, and the trees would remain. They would have a center thing, everything would stay in the center they would have pathways going through, they would have grasses growing, so it
Yeah.
didn't look different. So when we picked out and approved the location of the different houses, it was because this is how they could tuck in and not disturb it. We only had one driveway going in for two houses to keep it
Or 4 houses, yeah.
simple, or 4 houses, whatever. And then all of a sudden, one day, it's all gone, and it's just hard to understand what we were working with, which was sneaking the houses in and having them tucked in, to being out in the middle, and it completely changes the view from Hawthorne Lane, because that's why the big barns were more over there, was because they wouldn't be so noticeable driving along. So it sort of changed the whole concept of the property.
I have a question, Diane.
Me too.
Well, so here we are, right? And so now it's a question about triage and what can be done to get it back more to the idea of having some trees for screening and sort of breaking up the overall mass. Now, we have applications today for these little pods. What we don't have an application for, because Mirka obviously didn't anticipate this, is anything to do with the central piece, the communal piece.
Yeah.
Would it be possible, and you need to speak with your clients about this, about coming back in and simply adding some more deciduous trees and/or conifers to the central piece, so that what Diane I think is expressing, and it was definitely a concept that we all discussed, was the idea that we didn't want this to be too transparent. That you have these two sides with houses on them, and there wanted to be things in between there to break it all up visually. And so I think that if we just added some more trees in there on the common areas, which there seems to be plenty of room to do, that would be short of having the trees that were there now, that would be the next.
Absolutely, and I do not have I include the pool and pool hours approved, so that's a last plan of the 11 by 17 package, already showing how much trees I'm just adding for the middle
Well,
part.
there's obviously loads of trees around that,
And
but I think that the issue is bringing some more
Exactly,
into
and
this other
since
area.
I have not worked in detail for that area, it's, of course, there's an intent, I have an intent to plan
Okay.
the more trees in a more strategic locations. And plus, developing each lot separately and work on a planting plan. Again, I am bringing more trees surrounding the houses and really recreate the woody, because that was the idea. We want to have a really nice and thick planting between the buildings, and then it's open a little bit more to the common area with the bigger trees and more like a meadow-looking feel to it.
Yep.
So I'm happy to generate a little bit more plan, just something what I did for the screening.
I think
I
that
can
would
bring
make
that
everybody happy.
back to.
And frankly, I think that would yield a better product for this whole parcel. Is everybody okay with that
Yes.
concept?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
I have a question. Driveway comes in here, goes around here, and comes out. Is this a road going in?
No, it's just I don't know. I'm sorry, which. No, that just kind of try to just turn around and come back.
Wait a
So,
minute. All right, see, this is all broken up here with different bricks. Why?
It's just, we would like to instead have if we start to talk about the detail of the design, I just wanted to instead have this typical steel edging cutout driveways. We would like to recreate this merging of green and hardscape together through these pavers, and allow the grass kind of creep through the pavers. So instead of having these strong lines of the driveway, come up with more little like a blurry line where the landscape green meets the hardscape.
Okay. The way I look at this, all right, I see it's an improper definition, because if this is brick and it's all edged, that's fine, but it's not. This extra broken up ridge see them here all broken up?
Yes.
Why are they broken up? Why are they there?
It's just the design intent to allow, so if I have, just assume if these are two pavers, I wanna keep them little offset to allow the green of the lawn get through it.
Yeah,
But
there's
at the
no-
same time, I would like to allow
Okay.
the car to be able to pull, turn around and come out.
There's no edge to them, that's what I'm saying.
Exactly, it's just, that's the intent, we just don't want, I just don't wanna create these strong driveways. It's supposed to feel more like a walking and car communication at the same time. So I just wanna have a really soft forms for this really hard use.
I think what he's saying, and there's two different things here. One is whether or not he approves, and the other is what he's seeing.
Okay.
What he's seeing is that the way it's drawn, as a definition of the drawing, is you're showing edging through the middle of the brick. So that is what he's pointing out now.
I see.
Whether he's gonna say he approves it or not, that's separate.
I see. So then, so I'm sorry, just so this is just an outline for like a driveway, but it's not, I think it's.
So there's no edging here.
There's no edging there, sorry, yeah, it's,
There's no
Yeah.
bricks are here.
bricks are there, but the edge would not be there. On this side, you won't get, and I think that's a wrong print, and I should have picked up on it. And so, yeah, so no edge here, just the hardscape blurry line.
You're just gonna have steel edging down here.
We will just have a little bit of steel edging, keep this straight line, and a little bit of steel edging. Most of the steel edging would be on these two clean lines. And then the steel edging will fade and will come up more as a blurry line of the hardscape.
In other
So we
words,
kind of wanna break it up a
Where
little
this
bit.
goes,
And again, same, this line is not there, so good, thank you very much, and thank you for,
just listen a minute, okay? I'm gonna ask you another question.
sure.
The way you explain this, you know, the way I'm looking at this is a driveway coming in, is blocks of brick, right?
Yes.
Okay. It's all staggered on the outside. Does this have the iron supports here?
No, the blocks will be staggered, so we don't have that steel edging.
Sorry, can I ask a question,
And then-
John?
Yeah. Okay. Everything outside of that.
Yes.
Same over here.
Thank you very much, Steve.
Abby has a question or a concern that relates to that, so hit
The,
that.
coming off Hummock Pond Road, you have these pavers, these techno block pavers, it looks like 4 by 24
Yeah,
pavers. It's sort of, you know, I don't think we have that anywhere on the island.
I actually have
Hang on, let her talk.
sorry.
So I'm wondering what other material could be, like what is on either side of this development? Is it Belgian block? Would that?
We would like to use I actually had samples shipped in, but they end up coming like really big and I cannot really lift them. So I'm hopeful to cut them and provide them. So we would like to use the one company for, they are coming in, they are having the product for the different sizes, so they're for cars, which is practically, that's how it look like. And then they have a product which looks more like a bluestone. It's, you know, concrete pavers. So we would like to practically use the same style in a different sizes throughout the properties.
Okay, my point is that coming off Hummock Pond Road, we'd like to see something more traditional
Okay.
to Nantucket.
Okay.
Right.
What you do inside, we can do that. And if you could, I mean, I'm suggesting Belgian block because that's already accepted
Yeah.
here. For the apron just coming off the road.
Okay, and
So-
then if we transition to
And then
something
you can
more.
use something, you know, more appropriate to your design.
Okay.
Okay, now let's segue, having heard that, now let's go back to John's comment, because I think the two of them sort of tie together, because if you go with something more traditional like Belgian block, and indeed, I agree with Abby that sort of a traditional treatment on the road, meaning Belgian block, metal edging, so it looks just like all the other curb cuts, you know, on that street and every other street in town, okay? That's the way you should handle that curb cut right there.
Okay.
Okay, none of the stagger stuff.
Okay.
And if you, well, to Abby's point, if you want to use the stagger stuff further in, and you know, look, I get it. It's going to be like you're going to stagger it, and there's going to be shrubs that are overhanging it and so forth. So you're really not going to be
Is it
aware.
kind of like those cement things that people use and the grass grows in
No,
between? Oh.
no.
She's got a picture.
No, they're pavers.
No, I know, but she said grass grows in it.
Just the way how we would lay it out.
Along the edge.
Oh.
So
We
it's
would-
organic mix versus a hard line.
Right.
But what they're saying is, maybe that's fine, but do it internally, don't do it on the road.
Yeah, on the road, it should be, we should have a traditional, you know, the way that it's always done.
Call them tracking pads. Right.
Yeah, Belgian block, metal edging, and then, I think that would, so we're sort of,
And
we know that this is, what Andrew's trying to do in here is something a little different than, you know, what's
Yeah.
normally done in Nantucket. But this will at least, the thing that everybody's seeing from the road will be, it won't leap out at you as being conspicuously different.
Are we just talking conceptually here, or are we going to pass something?
Well,
Okay.
no, here's what I think.
Okay.
I mean, I think that we should just evaluate all these, you know, materials. So most of it has to do with this techno block, right?
Yeah.
Because you're gonna have these little patios that are made out of techno block.
And that's concrete, kind of?
Yeah, that's
Gotcha.
like that, so that would be like these two. And we wanna go with the gray, it's, if the color would be gray, blue-gray, so it's really similar to bluestone.
I like that,
Yeah, it's
that would
very,
be fun.
and, yeah. So hopefully I will be able to bring the samples on the next meeting.
I don't wanna necessarily.
I know, I went to grab it and then I was surprised, and I was like, I can
Yeah,
do
it's
it,
not
and
concrete.
it's not happening, yeah.
The other thing that's little, I'm not sure that I've ever seen crushed bluestone used here as a
Oh,
material.
yeah, we do use it, it's a darker, it's a just darker gravel. It's
Yeah.
we used it on a few projects, I had it.
Can you
on
take a picture of that? 'Cause it's
Sure.
not-
It's almost, it's the same stone what it's used for when you do the patio,
Yeah.
for a base.
But it's not the
Crushed
piece,
stone.
it's not the
Crushed
pea
stone.
stone.
It's not the
But
pea
yeah.
stone.
Yeah, it's not sort of a sandy color, it's blue.
No, I just was
Yeah.
making sure I understood what she was
Exactly.
saying. It's the base, it's the same stuff they're using as a base for patios before you
Oh,
lay it.
yeah, exactly.
Just so you have it
Right,
visual.
right.
And
You
right.
don't want to walk on it barefooted for sure.
No, it's razor
rough.
sharp.
It's this, but it's
Nasty.
nice, it's kind of nicely blends with the blue stone, and it's almost, for me, I like that material because it's darker, doesn't get hot, doesn't, on a sunny day, doesn't kill your eyes, and it looks almost like a river to me, and it's calming, so.
Bring a picture.
Yeah, I will, I actually,
It's a nice description.
I use it in my house.
I mean, it's a river.
It does, it's bluish, so that's what's kind of
Bluey green.
settled with the green, I feel it's such a smooth and elegant.
What were you about to say about the boardwalk?
I'm just asking,
Oh, what were you asking about?
is that what it was, like
Yes.
a boardwalk on,
Probably flush.
It flash at grade, not step up. It will be flash at grade. So I just wanted to just make the difference between the front doors
Well, it
and
also
mud
looks
room.
really good. Yeah. It's flush boardwalk.
It's very nice.
Yeah, and that's a really traditional detail.
Yep.
You'll see that all around Sconset and,
Grant Point.
yeah.
So just moving forward, so I think doesn't make sense to
Okay,
go
so I
through.
think that we just get a little bit more information. I'm imagining that all of these applications are gonna be
Yeah.
similar.
Yeah.
So once we have the palette together and maybe a couple of revisions, then we can move forward. And could we, why
Provide,
don't you talk to your client about showing us a plan for the general area where we can get in some, larger shade trees and stuff? Do you want to restore those rhododendrons?
Yeah, if they,
no problem.
She
if
likes
they
the
haven't been
white
ripped out,
What happened to all the cherry trees? Are they gone
There are,
too?
no, they are
Okay.
some.
Okay.
But, I'm sorry.
Do you like the white rhododendrons?
These were the soft pinky purple because they wilded themselves.
Yeah. All right.
We would just have to use, I guess, the only thing with the rhododendrons, the deer munch them, so I don't like to necessarily use them in an open landscapes, but maybe we can use them around the
Deer
pool.
didn't munch them out at Larrabee's.
Because it was, I guess, too hard to get to them.
They don't eat mine.
No, but you're in town.
Do you have wolf urine on them?
Deer don't eat
They munch the
rhododendron.
buds. Yeah.
Not very often. This huge one on Comet Avenue, it's 12 feet tall, been there for years.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And it belongs to Mayo Thunderberg, who works the post office, and his wife is a shrink. And they never touch it, so.
I will be very happy to.
We'll do the
No-
Larrabee
no
Memorial
worse than a
Rhododendron.
bulldozer
Nice.
stripping them.
And on your, since we're talking conceptual plan here, that's something you're gonna bring in. If
That's
you,
what
I
the
noticed your
photo
junipers Virginiana are 8 feet tall.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of replicating, if you go up 10 feet and cut back on some of the bayberry, cost-wise,
Yeah.
it's gonna make a huge
Just one
difference.
thing we need to approve,
What's that?
Just a
the
thought.
like-kind application so they can move forward with it.
That's fine.
Make a
Abby
motion.
wants to, her poor Tom,
Yeah.
right?
Do you want to-
Tom has been waiting for almost
I know.
2 hours.
That's not, it's not here.
Almost.
He's
So
fascinated
Abby's
by our
gonna take
meeting.
her leave, and we can vote this like-kind thing.
I don't know, I'm not.
Nice meeting you, Tom.
Bye.
Bye, Abby.
Thank you
Thanks
for being so
Uh,
patient.
And thank you. So we're good. We don't need to take a vote on, well, let's take a vote. For items 3 through 7, we are requesting additional information on the hardscape materials and some revisions to the plans. Can I have that motion?
Yes.
And the plan for the,
General.
the main area.
The
Sounds good.
calipers of the trees,
Yeah.
all that.
She's gonna scrutinize the hell out of this one,
No problem.
okay?
No problem.
It's very detailed.
All those in favor of Diane's motion?
All right.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your
Thanks.
time.
Okay, now we're gonna, we're gonna hold items 15 and 16, John, right? Nobody's here for that, no. Okay, so let's hold items 15 and 16, motion?
Motion to hold.
All those in favor of Steve's motion?
Aye.
Okay, great. And so the one thing that we're gonna take up on this, other business is the like-kind application thing. And do we also need to vote on the schedule?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, okay.
I just wanna have it noted, I will not be here on 10/31.
Well, that's on the website.
Oh, Halloween.
I won't be
Everyone's
here
coming to
either.
our Halloween.
10/31, that's the end of October.
That's Halloween, man.
I'll be in South North Carolina, wherever it is.
Didn't you resolve Beach Plum?
Yes.
Okay. I thought you.
Not to their satisfaction, but
No,
yes,
but
to
it
ours.
was,
Okay, does anybody have a problem with the like-kind application that somebody so courteously put together
Holly
for us?
did it.
Yes,
Holly, yes, sir.
I don't think you should have one.
Oh, really?
That's right, I do not, you add more and more work that you have to do, it comes along with the application anyway. If you like kind, we will know what it is. This is creating more dang problems than it's worth. If the guy says, I wanna change my window,
Okay, so let's discuss this.
yes, all right.
Okay, go, Val.
I had a long talk with Holly Backus, who made this up yesterday, and she seems to be the person, correct me if I'm wrong, that handles these, and she really scrutinizes them to the point where somebody brings a picture and says, I wanna put charcoal gray, replace charcoal gray shingles, and they're not exactly charcoal gray. She makes them bring in like the manufacturer and the.
Great,
That's
okay.
good.
Yeah, that's perfect.
That is an issue that I don't know how we're gonna resolve. Maybe people should bring samples because there is such a vast difference between the different brands in terms of color.
Okay, well then maybe,
We add
on this thing, if it's talking about roof shingles, it says, sample required.
Is it on here? No. That's a good idea. Ask John that.
It does say roof type, manufacturer roofing. It does say that, material color. But let's just say, sample required.
Right, because one guy's feeling about a gray roof may be not what the next guy thinks.
Exactly. different manufacturers have different ways of dealing with the colors. And so they can put down, so-and-so, and then it's up to us to research it, and that's a pain in the ass.
Right.
So if they just brought in a sample that Holly could either put aside or take a picture of or something like that, then it's on record. Okay?
So each application's gonna have all that information.
Okay, so, John, what this is, I think what this is an effort to prevent is, do you remember the guy who came in, it was a house in Sconset, he said he was doing like kind, he went down and talked to Steve Butler, like kind, and what he did was he pulled out all these old sash-weighted windows and he put in like Anderson windows, and he said, well, they're 6/6.
Right.
It's like, well, that's not a like kind.
Right.
So this is to try and avoid that. But I think, am I correct in saying that, so Holly would be reviewing most of this stuff, and then it would basically go on consent as long as we had all the right information. So it's not gonna, I don't think it's gonna create more work for us as a board.
I think it's gonna be more specific to protect us
Exactly.
on the law, the things where people's view of something is different.
Well, and
Well,
you
like
bring
that.
up a good point, because she does not have windows and doors included in like kind, maybe for that reason.
So should other not be on there? Because other's a pretty broad category. You could put a shed in here. I mean, I don't mind, hey, that's great. I'm just
Do you
curious.
think that's why?
So, yeah, maybe I should clarify some things.
Go.
When somebody comes in with a 3-tab black roof,
Right,
they come into our office and they say, hey, I want to replace my roof with the same exact thing.
right,
We have them submit pictures of the current roof,
yes,
and they fill out an application, and
Yes.
it's a different fee, $25, I believe.
Okay, right.
And it's reviewed by, Holly's been doing most of them, or myself, in the office, and then we issue them an approval.
okay,
So, saying, okay, you are matching like kind what is on your roof, so then we issue them an approval so they can get a roofing shingling permit.
okay.
So
Can I
this is all
stop you
handled-
just for a second?
Sure.
Okay, so they submit photographs of what they currently have,
Right,
all right? And then they say, we're going to do that,
right.
okay? Where the whole system breaks down, and I've seen this not once, not twice, but many, many times, they come in and they say, well, it's a black roof, and it's
Right,
like,
right.
yeah, it's a black roof, but it's a black 3-tab roof, or whatever.
Right.
And so I feel sometimes, I think most of the times, they don't mean to do something or to do something incorrectly, but their idea of what's the same and ours are two different things.
Right.
And so it's like it really needs to be scrutinized, and you can't just say, oh, okay, you're going to match it. And let me tell you, the roof shingle thing is going to come up all the time now, because I'm looking at my roof in town. It's a 3-tab. It's gray, and I got to replace it. And we're probably going to go to wood, but I mean, if I were going to replace it with shingles, what would black 3-tab? I mean,
Right.
I don't know.
So
What
maybe,
about, why aren't we gonna include windows, because those are important?
Well, no, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, because I think that the windows, for me, are one of the larger things,
Right.
because people say, oh, well, it was 6/6.
well,
That's a
so
like
then
kind.
actually it's good, because they have to fill out a regular application and have it scrutinized.
Okay, so, but to John's point, John is saying that, this is creating more work. It doesn't sound like it's creating more work for this board necessarily, John. I think it's just making sure that things, when someone says, I'm gonna change out my front door, right? And they have a 6-panel door. Well, you know what a 6-panel door is. Well, they take that off and they put one on, and it's got like a big panel on the top and a little panel in the middle and a medium on the bottom. And they say, well, that's a 6-panel door. You go, well, that's not the one that was there before. So this is just a way to make sure that when they say they're going to do like kind, it's the same. Like it's just the same.
Okay.
But it sounds like we want to do a little bit more work on this.
Can I make some?
So Steve, go.
So some constructive comments. I think it's a great idea. I applaud the fact that it got a forum and that Holly did it, whoever did it.
Yeah.
Constructively, I'd suggest a few different things, a few different veins of thought. One is that it says all like-kind applications should provide photographs of work performed. It should say shall provide photographs, just to be clear that it's a minimum requirement that you provide photographs.
Right.
That's point number one. Point number two is that there are some areas of items that would be proposed to be covered by this that, for instance, you all or I, if I'm sitting, would prefer to review, which would be a chimney replacement versus a repair, or a foundation replacement versus a repair. So a foundation repair, I would suggest yes, but a foundation replacement, no, because I mean, you could come in with a foundation replacement, lift up a house in the historic district.
I don't, isn't
Well, that's
something
we're
like
going where it
that
says.
not like kind?
Yeah, anything in the old historic
Yeah.
district or stuff, the village or
So,
sensitive areas, that's.
Right, but
Okay,
that-
so is that something that the staff gives guidance on? Or they make a determination? To Steve's point, if somebody comes in and they want to replace, see, he's questioning the fact that it says repair/replace.
For certain items. For
Correct.
instance, a chimney. If
Got
a
it.
window was on here,
Right.
it would be in the same vein. So I'm suggesting that
Windows.
all I'm suggesting is consideration be given for allowing a chimney repair to be processed with this form and a foundation repair to be processed with this form, but not a chimney replacement or a foundation replacement.
No.
So those would come off the form. And then the other area, there's two other things here. One is that other means anything. So I just wonder if we really want to include other as a category on the form in any regard. And then lastly, there's this thought of, if you come in any of these categories with a like-kind application and you bring the photographs, where's the original certificate of approval reference? Because you could come in with something that wasn't approved by the HDC, get a like-kind replacement, and we've lost our opportunity to review it. So I would suggest that we have a field that the instructions say that the approval is contingent on a prior certificate of approval.
What about houses that don't have?
Yeah, and there's an awful lot.
But then hear me out.
Okay.
And then there would be a field somewhere that says prior certificate of approval. And if there isn't a prior certificate of approval, it goes in front of the HDC, because otherwise you could just come in and get something approved. For instance, you could go in with the, what are those things we were talking about? The conduit for the HVAC systems. And you can replace it with, you could say, well, I want gray instead of white, and it's like kind, but it was never approved to begin with.
Yeah.
I'm not faulting the form. I think it's a great
I think
idea.
we need, you gotta have things like back stoop or front stoop. Somebody has a stoop and it's like-kind replacement, by this time they add this and a little roof and everything else. So we need to get,
Well, do you want those to be approved without your review?
no,
Well, then don't add them to the form, because that's for stuff to
but
be approved.
then they're going to go and do it. Anyway, if she gets to see this, if there's a question, then this would come along with the presentation of their application. So we see what they're asking for and what they're asking for. It will be a useful tool, I think.
I definitely.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a really great idea, and it's,
And maybe underneath where it says roof type, it should have 3-tab or architectural, and they have to check it or circle it,
Yeah.
Or,
or wood.
yeah.
there's a lot of work that goes into putting these together.
I know, I put 5 together.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever looked at them.
I've looked at
I
them, and
looked at them
they're very
when you
nice.
made
It's just the integrity of process is what I'm trying to preserve.
Yeah. Yep, I agree.
The last order would be the vote on the schedule.
Yeah. Okay, I didn't look at it, but I'm fine with it. I
I'm
hear
fine
we
with
have
it
the rest
too.
of the rest of the year off, so.
But
I'm good.
nobody else is having that night off except for me.
Can I
Me,
go?
I'm gone.
Can I go back to this?
Yeah.
We've waited and stuff. I mean, what do we want to do with it? Do we want to tell
Well,
specifics?
okay,
Do we want to
so
say
I believe
work
we've
group,
just
work with
given
Holly?
comments, And Holly, it seems, is the one who's been tasked with doing this, and so.
Right. We can
She's good at it.
all work together.
John can work with it, right?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure there was some
we can
closure,
bring it
because,
to another-
you know, we talked about it, but so that she knows and you know what to do.
No,
So
yeah,
it's
I think
not,
the comments are good.
Right.
you know, just so it doesn't get put off, that's all.
Yeah.
Because it's an important forum, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
All right.
And so now back to the schedule. You okay with the schedule?
Yeah.
We're gonna give you next Tuesday off, John.
Why?
Just for
Labor
For
Day.
labor.
Because Linda says so.
This is your special.
That's right.
I got a comment.
Mm.
This is a problem that they came up, they said at 72 Main Street.
Oh,
All right, where my thumb is, where that picture, where that window is underneath there, that side has got now wooden lattice work painted black. As far as the other day. You might be doing the whole of it with black, I don't know.
72, Chris?
The work's not done.
Okay, so I'm just gonna bring everybody up to speed. No deliberation, okay?
Well, it's on the agenda.
Oh,
But to
Oh,
be
yeah.
fair, Christopher came on Tuesday.
right. But, okay, so the long and short of this is that John had a conversation with Chris Scahill, who is doing that project, and said, you gotta apply for this, and this, and this, and this. And so he's gonna actually come in with an application for all that stuff.
Okay, so there's a date issue right now. All right, this here is the guy that come in out there wants some roof panels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, he said the west elevation of the other level couldn't be seen.
Oh, yeah, you can.
These are taken from the street,
Yeah.
public way. So I'm just saying, I'm gonna hold them till he comes in, because they're gonna tell him, don't ever walk in here and lie to me. I said,
Right.
it can't be seen, you know?
You can see that.
Maybe he meant if you're really short.
Huh? Say it again, fuck, maybe what?
Maybe he meant if you were very short.
All right.
Right, now, one other comment. That bricks with the little bump ups on them, is that?
The Legos? They look like
Yeah,
Legos.
Lego
Yeah.
bump ups.
I'll tell you, they look better than concrete.
Is it still active, or is it a dead issue with us? We
Uh,
haven't done anything.
The town came in with that, right?
They did.
I know they come in with it. Question is it a dead issue? We didn't vote for them.
It was just a discussion because they actually do not have to get our approval. They were looking for our
Not.
input, but they don't need our approval.
I think you're never
Who
gonna
go?
know they're there.
They're the ones
Unless
that
you're
Town, I
disabled.
mean,
are just
Town
like the
doesn't
one
have a
outside
blanket
this
permit for
building.
landscaping.
I-
That's part of landscaping. I don't know.
they think they do.
They have
The
to make
town
them
thinks
different
it-
color.
That little woman had work in here.
You'll see
She
the
messed
one
this whole town up with about 7
front
issues.
this building.
Oh,
I blasted the hell out of
she's
it.
the one that was painting the sidewalk
Yeah,
on the
maybe
roof.
that's why she
Yes.
quit.
Yeah.
One more thing, because
Right.
it is on here. Can we form a work group to come up with some
I was hoping you'd put that
criteria
off, because I need some time.
for the heat pump system?
I would
Yeah.
volunteer to be
Retrofits?
involved on that. I have
Yeah.
a body of
I'll
knowledge.
talk to you.
Well,
I
the
would.
reason we want to ask about a work group is so that we can talk to each other and not be accused of having a meeting
No,
outside.
we just need to come up with a time and do the public notice, da-da-da.
Right.
That.
Well, if it's a two-person work group, you don't have to.
No, you do. Sorry.
No.
Only if it's
Yeah.
What?
If it, any,
a one-person.
this,
one
hey,
person.
Steve,
One person.
Yeah.
Yeah,
this
if
was,
it's not work on it, she doesn't have to post anything.
this was a result of one of those meetings we had with town council. And we were talking about like informal work groups, and we thought like if it was an informal work group that we didn't need to notice. And then he said, oh yeah, you do. We said, well, if it's 3 people, and he said, no, even if it's 2 people, that's considered a work group, and that needs to be noticed.
Can the public come to it, or
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing about public notification is theoretically, if you really wanted to sit there and attend, you could.
So I'll be on the work group with Val. Who else? Anyone?
I'll be on.
I
And
would
then
be
you-
on it if you have it somewhere where I can get to.
John had sent to us that he had notified the Builders Association that this is something we want to talk to them about, so should we talk to them and get input and then
I would suggest
the reverse?
that we do a work group, and I have various, I've done different initiatives that have to do with town meeting and articles and building department and all that stuff. So there's a variety of ways we could approach it, so I suggest we talk about it and come up with a plan that we recommend to the group, and then we get approval, and then we would go to the building people.
Okay.
Okay.
And I also wanted to mention, did you speak to Steve Butler?
I don't know that you guys heard this.
I did, and that's why I wanted to mention.
It got sent out in an email.
Yeah.
Because there was something came up the other day, you were gonna, the power plant.
Yeah.
Okay, I was just gonna mention to you.
I was gonna call him, and then I checked my email, and
Yeah.
he ain't there no more.
Guys, is that an issue?
I think it's a ham radio tower, which we
I
do
know
not.
it is, yeah.
Yeah, and
Okay.
as long as they transmit both ways, it's not in our purview.
How about the swimming pool?
Done. Done.
Done. No, we're no longer
We,
involved.
yeah, they gotta go to the
Okay.
ADA.
What's that then?
The swimming pool with the swim out thing, they gotta take that up with the ADA.
So moved.
Motion to adjourn,
There you
please.
go. All those in favor?
Aye.